Chapter 2685. In that case, I won't stand on ceremony. Understanding the shopkeeper's intentions, Mo Qingyun didn't refuse and readily agreed. The manager nodded his head approvingly when he saw Mo Qingyun's straightforward attitude and gestured for him to enter. Then, under everyone's envious gazes, Mo Qingyun followed the shopkeeper into the inner hall. That kid is really lucky. He actually had the honor of tasting fine wine for free. Lower your voice. The two people beside that kid are at least quasi-universe grades. It seems like that kid's background and identity are much more powerful than Lanyue's. The people around them lowered their voices when they sensed Shi Wendy and Luo Yunyang's aura. Then, they looked at Mo Qingyun with envy in their eyes. Not only was he accompanied by powerhouses, but he was also accompanied by beautiful women. Now, he was even getting to taste fine wine. The so-called winner in life should be someone like Mo Qingyun. They entered the inner chamber. The manager pointed to a chair and smiled at Mo Qingyun. "Young master, please wait for a moment. I'll get you some wine." "All right." Mo Qingyun nodded and sat down on the chair. In a short while, the manager brought out the wine and poured a cup for Mo Qingyun. "Young master, try this wine again and see how it tastes. It's mellow and has a rich aftertaste. This is a rare fine wine." Mo Qingyun put down the wine cup and gave a fair evaluation. He smiled at the manager and said, "Manager, you didn't ask me to come over just to taste wine, right?" The manager's expression changed when he heard Mo Qingyun's words. He hadn't expected Mo Qingyun to be so direct. Mo Qingyun didn't mind the manager's surprise. He picked up the wine jug and poured another cup. "If you're just inviting me to taste wine, you'll be making a huge loss by letting me drink such fine wine for free. You must be joking, young master. It's just a few cups of wine." The shopkeeper smiled faintly and replied to Mo Qingyun, "If young master is willing, you can come and have a taste at any time." Mo Qingyun drank by himself, not in a hurry to reply. Seeing that Mo Qingyun didn't speak, the shopkeeper didn't care and continued, "To tell you the truth, young master, this old man is a descendant of the forest elves. Recently, I discovered that many dark demons had appeared on the Divine Wood continent, so I wanted to kill them to avenge the extermination of my clan. It's just that after our investigation, we discovered that they are very powerful, so I want to find a powerful helper." "So, I'm your helper?" Hearing the shopkeeper's words, Mo Qingyun's face was filled with surprise. Mo Qingyun didn't expect that the innkeeper had invited him in to taste the wine because he wanted him to be his assistant. Seeing Mo Qingyun's surprise, the shopkeeper nodded without hiding it. "Young master, you want to overthrow the Divine Wood Imperial Court and restore the country for the princess of the previous dynasty. Our enemies are the same, so why don't we work together? You actually know my identity. It seems that you have a lot of spies." Hearing the shopkeeper's words, Mo Qingyun was shocked again. He was very surprised by the other party's means. At this moment, he suddenly realized that the remaining strength of the elves was not weak. Otherwise, how could the shopkeeper of a restaurant know about their situation in such a short time? However, Mo Qingyun thought about it again and felt relieved. The elves were a 3-star force at their peak, so it was normal for them to have some foundation. After calming down from the shock in his heart, Mo Qingyun smiled faintly. "Shopkeeper, our enemy is different. Your enemy is the dark demons. They are not something the Divine Wood Imperial Court can compare to." The shopkeeper did not deny Mo Qingyun's words. The situation was indeed so. Without waiting for the shopkeeper to speak, Mo Qingyun continued, "In addition, I want to remind you that the dark demons' forces are not limited to the Divine Wood continent. They are much more powerful than you know." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, the shopkeeper's expression turned solemn. He quickly asked for advice. "Young master, please enlighten me. This old man will be very grateful." Under the shopkeeper's nervous gaze, Mo Qingyun pondered for a moment and said, "If my guess is correct, The force that controls the Wood Source Galaxy and the Blood Soul Galaxy is only a branch of the Dark Demons. I am not very clear about their specific forces at present. A centipede dies but does not fall over. After hearing Mo Qingyun's words, the shopkeeper could not help but sigh. His expression suddenly became solemn. Obviously, the news brought by Mo Qingyun had put a lot of pressure on him. If what Mo Qingyun said was true, it would be very difficult for them to deal with the dark demons. A small branch was already too much for them to deal with, not to mention the more powerful headquarters behind them. To put it bluntly, fighting against the dark demons was like hitting a rock with an egg. Looking at the heavy expression on the shopkeeper's face, Mo Qingyun smiled meaningfully. He suddenly changed the topic and said, "Although the dark demons are powerful, coincidentally, my ultimate enemy is also the dark demons. I am willing to cooperate with you." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, the shopkeeper was stunned. This change was too fast. He originally thought that Mo Qingyun would not cooperate with him. He did not expect such a reversal. Although he was surprised, seeing that Mo Qingyun was willing to cooperate, the shopkeeper immediately became happy. He said excitedly, "Young master, if you have any orders, this old man will do his best to cooperate with you. Not for the time being. I will contact you if I need anything." In response to the shopkeeper's request, Mo Qingyun smiled faintly and waved his hand. Mo Qingyun was also very happy to be able to cooperate with the forest elves. He did not expect that he would get such a helper by casually walking into a restaurant. This unexpected gain improved his mood a lot. With the help of the forest elves, it would be much easier to deal with the Divine Wood Imperial Court. In order to show my sincerity, I will go to the City Lord's mansion first and take down the City of Elves for you. After confirming the cooperation with the elves, Mo Qingyun stood up and said to the shopkeeper, "Let's go." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, the shopkeeper showed a surprised expression and said, "Young master, are you going to the City Lord's mansion just like that and start a war with them?" "That's right." In response to the shopkeeper's words, Mo Qingyun nodded firmly and said with a faint smile, "Our identities have been exposed. There's no point in continuing to hide. It's not a big deal to fight them head-on. Get ready to take over the City of Elves." After Mo Qingyun said this, he walked out of the inner pavilion. "It seems that I didn't misjudge this time. I found a strong helper." Looking at Mo Qingyun's back, the shopkeeper showed a bright smile and followed him out of the cabinet. Chapter 2686. Let's go to the City Lord Mansion. After leaving the inner pavilion, Mo Qingyun left some instructions for Shi Wendy and Li Chia before walking out of the restaurant. Upon hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Shi Wendy and Luo Yunyang immediately understood and followed behind Mo Qingyun. They believed that Mo Qingyun was heading to the City Lord Mansion to execute the decapitation plan. What is that kid doing at the City Lord Mansion? Is he going to seek refuge at the City Lord Mansion? I don't think so. He was invited by the shopkeeper and decided to head to the City Lord Mansion. Could it be that they are heading to the City Lord Mansion to stand up for the shopkeeper? Does this mean that there will be a good show to watch soon? Everyone was talking at once. They all looked expectant and immediately rushed to the City Lord's mansion. Mo Qingyun didn't care about the people following behind him. He just headed to the City Lord mansion unhurriedly. In a short while, Mo Qingyun and the other two arrived at the City Lord mansion and attracted the attention of many people. Bang, bang, bang! Mo Qingyun had just arrived at the City Lord mansion when he heard the sounds of an intense battle coming from within. While the sounds of battle were heard, a strong spatial nomological power swept out from the City Lord mansion. Complete spatial nomological laws. There is a universe-grade powerhouse in the City Lord mansion. Sensing the power of the laws of space, Mo Qingyun's expression shook, and a trace of shock appeared on his face. He hadn't expected that there would be a universe-grade powerhouse in the City Lord Mansion of the Elf City. From what he knew, although the Divine Wood Court was stronger than the Divine Heavenly Bull Sect, it wouldn't be by much. But now? The city lords of these two cities were actually universe-grade powerhouses that were far stronger than Guang Ping and the others. This was too abnormal. In this way, the difference in strength between the Divine Heavenly Bull Sect and the Divine Wood Court wasn't small at all. Mo Qingyun was puzzled by this discovery. That's strange. How did the cultivation bases of these city lords break through to the universe grade? Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Shi Wendi's brows furrowed tightly. He was also puzzled as he asked, just what is the reason for these people's strength to soar? What happened in the past few decades? Seeing that Shi Wendi was also puzzled, Mo Qingyun didn't ask him. He guessed the reason for this situation and said, if I'm not wrong, the sudden increase in strength of these people should be related to the Dark Devil race. They forcefully raised their cultivation by planting the power of their bloodline. Planting bloodlines can increase one's cultivation? Shi Wendi was even more puzzled by Mo Qingyun's conjecture. One has to comprehend space laws in order to break through to the universe grade. Planting a bloodline wouldn't achieve this, right? That's the strange part. Mo Qingyun nodded gravely in response to Shi Wendi's puzzlement. There's no need to think too much about it. We'll know when I capture the City Lord of Spirit City and seize his memories. Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Shi Wendi's expression immediately trembled. His thoughts were shocked. Mo Qingyun's way of doing things was really overbearing. That's the only way. Although Mo Qingyun's methods were unyielding, Shi Wendi had to admit that this was the most effective method. At this moment, while Mo Qingyun and Mo Qingyun were talking, several figures flew out. It's them. Mo Qingyun's eyes narrowed when he saw those figures. He recognized them. These people were the ones who had been instructed by the shopkeeper to rescue the two girls. Save them. Mo Qingyun didn't want to wait any longer after recognizing those people. He immediately got Shi Wendi and Shi Wendi to take action. As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he took the lead and rushed out to stop the people from the City Lord's estate who were chasing after them. Thank you, young master. The few forest elves immediately thanked Mo Qingyun when they saw Mo Qingyun step in to help. Mo Qingyun didn't respond to their gratitude. He just slashed forward with his sword. A golden sword light shot out when Mo Qingyun brandished his sword and turned into a crescent-shaped air wave. A celestial domain-grade brat actually dares to meddle in other people's business. He must have a death wish. Brat, I think you must be tired of living. How dare you meddle in the City Lord Mansion's business? The people from the City Lord Mansion who had chased after Mo Qingyun immediately shouted angrily when they saw him step in to stop them. These people roared angrily and attacked Mo Qingyun one after another, casting their divine powers at him. They simply ignored the sword light that Mo Qingyun had unleashed and didn't even put up a basic defense. In their opinion, given their quasi-universe grade cultivation, they would be fine if they took on Mo Qingyun's sword head-on. PFFF, PFFF, as the sword light swept past, a bright red mist of blood sprayed out and dyed the light red. The people from the City Lord Mansion were all cut in half at the waist by the sword light. Seeing such a scene, the surrounding people were all stunned. One sword strike had crippled the bodies of several quasi-universe grade powerhouses. This kind of combat power was really frightening. Even a universe-grade powerhouse wouldn't be able to do this. That brat is really strong. This isn't just strong. He's sick. Who exactly is this brat? Could he be a genius from a 3-star power? Everyone was discussing softly, curious about Mo Qingyun's identity. While everyone was discussing softly, the few people from the forest elf tribe came out with a look of surprise. They didn't expect that the young man who saved them would be so strong. In this way, their lives wouldn't be in danger. This brat is so strong. Let's retreat. While everyone was still in shock, the people who had their bodies cut in half immediately fled into the city lord mansion. Seeing that these people were preparing to escape, Emo Qingyun's face turned cold and he slashed at them again. Emo Qingyun's sword strike was stronger and faster than the previous one. In the blink of an eye, the sword light approached those people and wanted to kill them. Stop! A burly man shouted angrily at Emo Qingyun as the sword light neared the group of people. This person was the city lord of the City of Elves, Lan Shi. When Lan Shi yelled at Emo Qingyun, he didn't forget to block the sword light and save the people from the city lord mansion. What surprised Lan Shi was that the fist shadow that he blasted at the sword light had no effect on the sword light at all. Bang, bang, bang. Following that, Lan Shi saw the bodies of several subordinates directly explode from the sword light. When the few people's bodies exploded, their essence spirits were annihilated too. Their divine souls were instantly destroyed. Seeing this scene, the surroundings fell silent. At this moment, everyone's gazes towards Emo Qingyun were filled with a strong sense of awe. One sword strike killed several quasi-universe realm powerhouses. This young man's strength was too terrifying. What an arrogant brat! Seeing Emo Qingyun kill his subordinates in a domineering manner, Lan Shi yelled angrily, "Brat, I'm going to kill you today to establish my might and let people know who's the master of this city of elves." Chapter 2687. That's great. I want to practice on you and get used to my recently improved strength. Emo Qingyun was not afraid of the Blue Lion's attack at all. He shouted coldly and took the initiative to meet the attack. When Emo Qingyun charged at the Blue Lion, he swept the Nine-Bull Divine Sword and blasted out a purple mist-like sword ray. What a powerful aura! Sensing the sword ray's aura, the Blue Lion's expression trembled and revealed a look of shock. Only then did he realize that the boy in front of him was not so easy to deal with. Wild Lion shakes the galaxy. Faced with the purple sword ray's attack, the Blue Lion did not retreat at all. He immediately roared at the sky. As the Blue Lion roared, a huge lion's shadow quickly condensed outside his body. Roar! When the lion's shadow finished condensing, it opened its mouth and roared, spitting out a terrifying saint power. The saint power gushed out and turned into a huge storm, swallowing the purple mist-like sword ray. However, to the Blue Lion's surprise, the purple mist-like sword ray's attack did not weaken at all in the face of his divine power. This boy's divine power can't be defended against. After encountering such situations one after another, the Blue Lion quickly realized that Emo Qingyun's sword technique was not right. Immediately, he hurriedly retreated to avoid the purple mist-like sword ray's attack. Although the Blue Lion avoided it, the city governor's mansion could not avoid it and was instantly hit by the purple mist-like sword ray. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The huge city governor's mansion was razed to the ground in the blink of an eye. When the city governor's mansion was razed to the ground, the people inside the mansion escaped one after another. However, although they managed to escape, they were all heavily injured. The two girls are over there. As the city governor's mansion was razed to the ground, the two captured elven girls appeared in front of Emo Qingyun. Under Emo Qingyun's sword, the two of them were also injured, but their lives were not in danger. Space compression. Seeing the two girls, Emo Qingyun released the law of space and appeared in front of them in a flash. Arriving in front of the two girls, Emo Qingyun waved his hand and killed the guards beside them. "Follow me." After killing a few city guards, Emo Qingyun raised his hands and placed them on the two girls' shoulders. Soon after, Emo Qingyun's figure moved and brought the two women back to their original spot. Seeing that the young girl had been rescued, the forest elves immediately revealed joyful expressions and said gratefully, "Young master, thank you for saving Jinlan and Buo. There's no need for such formalities." In response to their gratitude, Emo Qingyun waved his hand indifferently and said, "Their injuries are not light. Take them away first and treat them." "Yes." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, the forest elves left with the two girls. Blue Lion's face was as black as ink when he saw the forest elves leave. He shouted angrily, "Humph! How can I let you leave so easily after causing trouble in my city lord's mansion? Space imprisonment!" Blue Lion roared angrily. He stretched out his palm and released an astonishing amount of the law of space. Soon after, the space around the forest elves was imprisoned by the law of space. Seeing such a scene, their expressions trembled, and intense fear appeared on their faces. With their abilities, they could not break the law of space. This way, they would be trapped until they were captured again. I hope that young master has a way to break Blue Lion's law of space imprisonment. After a moment of anxiety, they looked expectantly at Mo Qingyun. Seeing that they were looking at him, Mo Qingyun did not hesitate and slashed his sword in front of them. Sky-piercing. As Mo Qingyun swung his sword, a domineering force blasted out along with the sword light. Soon, the sword light slashed in front of them and split the space in front of them. Bang! As the space was split open, Blue Lion's law of space imprisonment was also defeated. Seeing that the law of space imprisonment was broken, the forest elves were overjoyed and immediately fled toward the treehouse restaurant. As they fled, the surrounding onlookers were stunned by Mo Qingyun's performance. What kind of sword cultivator is this kid? His sword moves are too terrifying. His sword seems to contain some kind of terrifying power that can cut through the law of space. Not just cut through the law of space, but even the space itself was split open. Seeing Mo Qingyun's strength, intense fear emerged in everyone's eyes as they looked at him. This kind of powerful combat strength was too terrifying. Compared to the others' fear, Blue Lion's expression became serious when he saw Mo Qingyun's strength. He thought to himself, although this kid is not a universe realm elite, his strength is not any weaker than a universe realm elite. He is a terrifying opponent. Since we have rescued them, we can focus on dealing with you. After watching the forest elves leave, Mo Qingyun turned his head to look at the Blue Lion, a cold glint in his eyes. As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he instructed Shi Wendy and Luo Yu, "Leave this person to me. You two deal with the others." "Okay." Hearing Mo Qingyun's instructions, Shi Wendy and Luo Yu responded and went to deal with Lan Yu and the others. Among Lan Yu and the others, the one with the strongest cultivation was only at the quasi-universe realm. Moreover, they had suffered serious injuries under Mo Qingyun's sword. With Shi Wendy and Luo Yu's strength, dealing with them was too easy. "Kid, you are too arrogant!" Blue Lion shouted angrily when he saw that Mo Qingyun wanted to deal with him alone. As his words fell, a terrifying bloodline power erupted from his body. The fusion of bloodlines is indeed a technique of the dark demon race. Sensing the aura of Blue Lion's bloodline, Mo Qingyun's face turned cold. The guess in his heart had been answered. His guess was right. Blue Lion's cultivation breakthrough was indeed related to the planting of a bloodline. Mo Qingyun was slightly surprised. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Although you planted a bloodline, the strength of the bloodline you planted is too far away from Zi Wang's bloodline. Even Zi Wang is not my match, so you are not worth mentioning. As soon as Mo Qingyun's words fell, his figure flashed and he took the initiative to charge towards Blue Lion. Spatial door. As he charged towards Blue Lion, Mo Qingyun used the spatial door to increase his strength. Soon, a faintly discernible door of light appeared above him. After the spatial door was formed, it entered his body. Immediately, a mysterious power of the law of space was born in Mo Qingyun's body. The law of space compression. Sensing the power of the law of space in his body, Mo Qingyun felt a sense of surprise. He did not expect that he would obtain the law of space compression by using the law of space. In this way, he had double the law of space compression, which made him look forward to it. Chapter 2688. Spatial Compression. As he rushed towards the blue lion, Mo Qingyun's left palm blasted out and released the spatial compression law. As the spatial compression law descended, the blue lion immediately felt oppressed, as if he was being squeezed by space. Spatial imprisonment. Upon seeing this, the blue lion didn't dare be careless. He immediately released the spatial compression law to resist. As the blue lion released the spatial imprisonment law, the feeling of space being squeezed was immediately greatly alleviated. I knew you had this trick up your sleeve. The corners of Mo Qingyun's mouth curled into a smile when he saw the blue lion's performance. Then, he waved his left palm and released another layer of the spatial compression law. Bang! Another layer of the spatial compression law descended, and the spatial imprisonment law released by the blue lion was immediately crushed. As the spatial imprisonment law was broken, the power of the dual spatial compression law landed on the blue lion's body. The blue lion's face flushed and he spat out a mouthful of blood after being suppressed by the dual spatial compression law. Then, his body started to deform rapidly under the dual spatial compression law. Spatial compression law. He actually comprehended the spatial compression law. How did he do it? Is this kid really a celestial domain grade? If he can comprehend the spatial compression law at the celestial domain grade, how impressive will it be when he breaks through to the space boundary? Not only did he comprehend the spatial compression law, but he also comprehended 2 layers of the spatial compression law. Can the spatial compression law be repeatedly comprehended? Why have I never heard of it before? It wasn't before, but it is now. This kid has broken the rules of cultivation. Everyone was shocked when they saw Mo Qingyun's performance. They were even more in awe of Mo Qingyun. Even the rules of cultivation in the world of cultivation were broken by him. This kind of performance was too frightening. Boom! As everyone watched in shock, the blue lion's body finally couldn't bear the burden and was crushed by the dual spatial compression law. As his body was crushed, the blue lion's primordial spirit was terrified and his body started to tremble. Given his current state, it would be easy for Mo Qingyun to kill him if he wanted to. Just as the blue lion was panicking, the surrounding spatial compression law force suddenly disappeared. However, before he could rejoice, Mo Qingyun's figure moved and appeared in front of him. Kid, what do you want? If you kill me, you will be going against the Divine Wood Imperial Court. Seeing Mo Qingyun in front of him, the blue lion's primordial spirit was terrified and warned Mo Qingyun. Hearing Lan Shi's words, Mo Qingyun grinned and said, "You're really not doing a good job as the city lord. You issued an order to capture me in the city, but now you don't even know who I am. You're really a failure. You're the traitor Mo Qingyun." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Blue Lion's body trembled as he guessed Mo Qingyun's identity. Soon after, his pupils shrank as the fear he felt towards Mo Qingyun grew even stronger. Mo Qingyun wanted to assist Wang Zishu in reviving her country, which made him an enemy of Wang Xiao and the others. How could he be afraid of them? I'm a rebel? Mo Qingyun couldn't help but laugh when he heard how the Blue Lion addressed him. In his opinion, Blue Lion's words were the biggest joke in the world. However, Mo Qingyun didn't care. He raised his hand and grabbed Blue Lion's primordial spirit, saying, "Since you know who I am, then accept your death obediently. Use your blood as a sacrifice for my execution. Don't kill me." Seeing Mo Qingyun's attack, Blue Lion's body trembled as he begged Mo Qingyun loudly. Even though he had acted extremely domineering earlier, he would still feel fear when faced with death. However, Mo Qingyun chose to ignore his pleas. In his eyes, anyone who worked for Wang Xiao would be his enemy. Blue Lion wasn't the first, nor would he be the last. Faced with Mo Qingyun's attack, Blue Lion saw that his pleas were futile, so he retaliated. Unfortunately, even when he was at his peak, he was no match for Mo Qingyun. Let alone that he was only left with a primordial spirit now. Under Mo Qingyun's attack, Blue Lion's primordial spirit was instantly captured. His life and death fell into Mo Qingyun's hands. Demonic eye soul stealing. After Mo Qingyun captured Blue Lion, he executed a divine ability and forcibly stripped the memories in his head. A terrifying soul power erupted from Mo Qingyun's eyes, turning into a massive black eyeball. Under this black eyeball, Blue Lion's face was ashen, his gaze becoming dull. Before long, Blue Lion's primordial spirit dissipated, dying under Mo Qingyun's seizure of his memories. Looks like I underestimated the Dark Devil race. They can actually plant law power. Stripping Blue Lion's memories, Mo Qingyun had a clear answer to the confusion in his heart. After so many years of research, the Dark Devil race's planting methods had made great progress. At this moment, not only could they plant bloodlines, but they could also plant law power. Not only that, but their technology had not stopped. They were still researching even stronger planting methods. This discovery frightened Mo Qingyun quite a bit. He was even more fearful of the Dark Devil race. The only thing that made him feel fortunate was that there was only one chance to plant law power. Moreover, once the law power was planted, one's cultivation would not be able to advance. Otherwise, if the Dark Devil race were to continue, which force could contend against them? Although they could not plant law power multiple times, the Dark Devil race relied on this method to cultivate a terrifying strength. Looks like my battle with the Dark Devil race still has a long way to go. Thinking of the Dark Devil race's strength, Mo Qingyun could not help but sigh. He felt a great pressure. However, even though he was under immense pressure, he was even more motivated to fight. In Mo Qingyun's seizure of Blue Lion's memories, the battle between Wendy and Mo Qingyun had ended. They had killed all the people in the City Lord's mansion. Since the City Lord's mansion has been destroyed, we should leave this place. After Mo Qingyun said this, he didn't want to stay any longer and immediately rushed to the Treehouse restaurant. Mo Qingyun had just arrived outside the Treehouse restaurant when the shopkeeper and the others came up to him and said gratefully, "Young master, it's all thanks to you this time. Otherwise, Jin Lan and Bu O would have been in danger." "You're welcome." Mo Qingyun smiled faintly and waved his hand in response to everyone's words of gratitude. "Since we are in an alliance, this is my duty. Now that the City Lord's mansion has been destroyed, I should leave this place. Is there a problem with you taking care of the aftermath? This is a small matter." "There is no problem." In response to Mo Qingyun's question, the shopkeeper smiled nonchalantly and said, "Previously, we were afraid of exposing our identities, so we did not take action. Since we are going to take action now, what do we have to be afraid of?" Chapter 2689. That's good. Mo Qingyun nodded in satisfaction. After learning about the situation of the elves, Mo Qingyun thought for a moment and said to the shopkeeper, "Don't worry, I will continue to flatten the other cities and distract the attention of the Divine Wood Imperial Court." Mo Qingyun's plan made the shopkeeper happy, and the worries in his heart lessened. At that time, the cities would be destroyed one after another, and the Divine Wood Imperial Court would not have the time to pay attention to the City of Elves. What they needed to do was to strengthen the defenses of the intact cities and set up traps to wait for Mo Qingyun. Time is of the essence. Let's destroy some more cities while the Divine Wood Imperial Court is still unprepared. After talking with the shopkeeper for a while, Mo Qingyun did not want to delay any longer and was ready to take action immediately. Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, the shopkeeper nodded knowingly and said, "Young master, go ahead and attack those cities. Leave the finishing work of controlling the cities to us." "Okay." Mo Qingyun immediately nodded and agreed to the shopkeeper's request. In this way, he could also save some trouble and weaken the strength of the Divine Wood Imperial Court at a faster speed. "In that case, we'll take our leave." After discussing with the shopkeeper, Mo Qingyun took out the black demon flying ship and left with Wendy and the others. After Mo Qingyun and the others left, the elves began to take action and took over the city of Elves. Although the elves' actions made some people dissatisfied, they gave in when they thought of Mo Qingyun's strength. Outside the city of Elves, Mr. Mo, what if the elves take over the city and directly occupy it? After coming out of the city of Elves, Wendy had a worried expression as he asked Mo Qingyun about how to deal with it. Regarding Wendy's concerns, Mo Qingyun smiled indifferently and said, "If they dare to do so, I'll let them experience the process of the Divine Wood Imperial Court being destroyed." After receiving Mo Qingyun's answer, Wendy realized that his worries were unnecessary. Looking at Mo Qingyun's reaction, he seemed to have already thought of how to deal with this situation. Although Wendy didn't quite agree with Mo Qingyun's overbearing actions, he had to admit that this was the most direct and effective method. After talking with Wendy, Mo Qingyun frowned and said, "Although we're not worried about the elves occupying the city, we still have to be on guard. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time and effort to fight again." "That's true." Wendy nodded in agreement with Mo Qingyun's concern. He then revealed a curious expression and said, "If that's the case, do you have any ideas to prevent such a hidden danger from appearing? At the moment, I can't guarantee that my method will work, but I can give it a try." Hearing Wendy's question, Mo Qingyun gave a simple answer and said, "I'm going to find Ma Wenguang. If I can get his help and let him deal with the aftermath for us, that would be the best." "That's indeed a good idea." Knowing Mo Qingyun's idea, Wendy immediately expressed his agreement and said, "Although Pan Yong's matter has made us a little passive, we can't give up the entire forest for a tree. It's worth it to rope in Ma Wenguang for help. In that case, we'll go find Ma Wenguang's base and destroy the cities of the Divine Wood Imperial Court along the way." Seeing that Wendy agreed with his decision, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately told Wendy, "Master, you determine the route. We'll rush there as fast as we can." "Okay." Wendy immediately nodded in agreement with Mo Qingyun's instructions. Next, Mo Qingyun quickly rushed to Ma Wenguang's base under Wendy's guidance. About a day later, with Mo Qingyun and the other two hurrying along, they came to a city and stopped moving forward. What surprised Mo Qingyun and the other two was that as soon as they arrived at the city, they saw many people standing outside the city. "It seems that my whereabouts have been discovered. Someone is waiting for us here." Looking at the lineup in front of him, Mo Qingyun sneered and released a chill from his body. This was the best. He could directly take care of the other party and save himself the trouble. "Master, is that you?" Seeing the arrival of Mo Qingyun and the other two, a middle-aged man in a python robe greeted them with a smile. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, Wendy's expression froze. He immediately recognized him and said, "So it's King of Beixian. Are you going to encircle and annihilate us?" I wouldn't dare." In response to Wendy's question, King of Beixian quickly waved his hand and showed a humble attitude. He said, "You still don't know my character. I'm not the kind of person who rebels against his superiors. If it weren't for my remote location, I would have done my best to protect the late emperor." King of Beixian's words made Mo Qingyun and the other two look at each other. They did not understand what he meant. Seeing that Mo Qingyun and the other two were silent, King of Beixian did not beat around the bush. He said, "The three of you, I'm here to welcome you. I don't mean anything else. I just want to confirm if Princess Zishu is really alive. If she is, I'm willing to do my best to assist her in restoring her country." "You want to surrender to us?" Hearing King of Beixian's idea, Wendy's expression froze. He was a little surprised by this situation. In his opinion, the current strength of the Divine Wood Imperial Court was obviously much stronger than theirs. It was not a wise move for King of Beixian to surrender to them now. However, although King of Beixian's move was not wise, It also showed his sincerity. That's right. King of Beishian did not hide from Sure Wendy's inquiry. He nodded truthfully and said, "If Princess Zishu is really alive, I'm willing to do my best to assist you in dealing with the imperial court. Although I'm not strong, I can help you a little." Hearing King of Beishuan's words, Mo Qingyun and the other two exchanged a look, hesitating whether to believe him or not. After experiencing Pan Yong's incident, they had become more cautious and instinctively took more precautions. "Mr. Mo, in my opinion, we should trust him this time. We can't kill everyone at once." Sure Wendy hesitated for a moment. He suggested to Mo Qingyun that he should give King of Beishian a chance. Hearing Sure Wendy's words, Mo Qingyun nodded and decided to trust King of Beishian this time. If King of Beishian was sincere about surrendering, it would definitely be a good thing. Immediately, Mo Qingyun raised his hand and waved, bringing Wang Zishu to his side. Seeing Wang Zishu's appearance, King of Beishuan's expression immediately changed. He recognized Wang Zishu. "Greetings, Princess Zishu." King of Beishian had a respectful look on his face. He quickly bowed to Wang Zishu and said, "I didn't know you were coming. Please forgive me for not welcoming you." When King of Beishian knelt down, the people in front of the city gate also knelt down and opened the city gate. Seeing such a scene, Wang Zishu hesitated and became wary of King of Beishian. Chapter 2690. Wang Zishu hesitated for a moment, then looked at Mo Qingyun, asking for his opinion. Seeing Wang Zishu looking at him, Mo Qingyun nodded at her, indicating that he could trust King Beishian. "King Beishian, you're exaggerating." Receiving Mo Qingyun's hint, Wang Zishu immediately understood. She helped King Beishian up and said, "In front of you, I'm just a junior. I don't deserve such respect. Everyone, you must be tired from the journey. Please take a rest in the city." After talking with Mo Qingyun and the others, King Beishian invited them to take a rest in the city. Receiving King Beishuan's invitation, Mo Qingyun and the others exchanged a look, then followed him into the city. After activating the second superpower of Nine-Bull Sword, Mo Qingyun was not afraid that King Beishian would set up a formation to trap them. The second superpower of Nine-Bull Sword could break the space domineeringly. Ordinary formations were useless against it. Although he was not worried about the formation traps, Mo Qingyun was not careless. He still released his soul power to sense the surroundings. In case there were strong enemies lying in ambush, he could be prepared in advance and would not be too passive. "It seems that I'm overthinking. King Beishian is sincere." Mo Qingyun didn't find anything out of the ordinary after probing for a while. His expression relaxed a little. After a while, under King Beishuan's lead, they came to a huge palace. "Order people to prepare wine and dishes." After bringing everyone to the palace, King Beishian directly ordered people to serve wine and delicacies. Not long after, delicacies that looked, smelled, and tasted good were served to everyone. "Your Highness, these are your favorite dishes in the past." Seeing the wine and dishes being served, King Beishian smiled faintly and greeted Wang Zishu. Hearing King Beishuan's words, Wang Zishu nodded and ate a little. After greeting Wang Zishu, King Beishian greeted Mo Qingyun and the others with great enthusiasm. After a while, everyone became more familiar with each other after toasting each other. "Mr. Mo, compared to your talent, the so-called unparalleled divine wood is trash." After they talked for a while, King Beishian picked up his wine glass and said a few flattering words to Mo Qingyun. "I believe that under your leadership, we can definitely bring down Wang Shao." "You flatter me, King Beishian." Mo Qingyun was not moved by King Beishuan's flattery. He responded indifferently and said, "King Beishian, since you have surrendered to Zishu, why don't you tell us how you plan to help her restore her kingdom?" Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Lord Beishian and the others were shocked. They did not expect Mo Qingyun to be so direct. After pondering for a moment, Lord Beishuan's expression became serious. He said, "Although I am only a lord with a different surname, I have also developed some forces on the Divine Wood continent. I am confident that I can overthrow 10 cities of the Divine Wood Imperial Court within half a month." 10 cities. Hearing King Beishuan's words, Emo Qingyun was a little surprised. He was a little surprised by his words. From the looks of it, this Lord of Beishian was quite capable. He had cultivated such a force without anyone noticing. It seems that this King Beishian is also ambitious. It seems that I have to guard against him. Surprised by King Beishuan's ability, Emo Qingyun raised his vigilance to guard against any unusual moves. In his opinion, an ambitious person would not be willing to be a subject forever. King Beishian was willing to surrender now, but it did not mean that he would always be like this. Would he not be like Wang Xiao one day? Of course, at this stage, Emo Qingyun did not have to worry about this. Emo Qingyun thought for a moment, then he turned to look at King Beishian and said, "King Beishian, tell us about the 10 cities you control first, lest we destroy the cities you control when we destroy the forces of the Divine Wood Imperial Court." Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, King Beishian was immediately shocked and quickly told him about the cities he controlled. If the cities he controlled were destroyed by Emo Qingyun, he would really be wronged. After knowing the cities controlled by King Beishian, Emo Qingyun looked at Shirwendi and asked, "Abbess, are there any cities controlled by King Beishian on our route?" "There are no cities controlled by King Beishian on our route." Understanding Emo Qingyun's meaning, Shirwendi immediately answered. After figuring this out, Mo Qingyun nodded and raised his cup to King Beishian, saying, "In that case, I hope we can cooperate happily and work together to get rid of Wang Xiao and the others." Seeing Emo Qingyun raise his cup, King Beishian and the others raised their cups and toasted Emo Qingyun together. Following that, Emo Qingyun and the others began to discuss the details of their cooperation. After some discussion, Emo Qingyun and the others left and continued to go to Ma Wenguang's stronghold. After leaving Beishian City, Emo Qingyun frowned slightly and asked Shirwendi, who was beside him, "Abbess, what do you think of King Beishian? Can he be put in an important position?" Hearing Emo Qingyun's question, Shirwendi immediately fell silent and thought about how to answer this question. Shirwendi was silent for a while, and his expression became serious, saying, "To be honest, before this, I didn't know much about King Beishian. I just thought that this person was idle and unambitious." At this point, Shirwendi's expression tensed up. He changed the topic and said, "But from the contact just now, I realized that I underestimated him. This person is very scheming and doesn't show his emotions on his face. This is a venomous snake in the dark corner. We must be on guard against him." Yes. After listening to Shirwendi's analysis, Emo Qingyun nodded in agreement. Shirwendi's analysis of King Beishian could be said to be very accurate. This guy was indeed not simple. Forget it, let's not pay attention to him. He can't make waves. Emo Qingyun shook his head and stopped thinking about Lord Beishian. He didn't take him seriously. He was not even afraid of the Dark Devil clan, let alone a small King Beishian. If it really didn't work, he would directly kill King Beishian with a strong attitude. On the following journey, Emo Qingyun and the others went straight and cleared out cities along the way. As the cities were cleared out, the Divine Wood Imperial Court finally responded and began to send troops to encircle Emo Qingyun and the others. However, the troops sent by the Divine Wood Imperial Court were too weak. Under the attack of Emo Qingyun and the others, they were almost killed in a crushing manner. In this way, Emo Qingyun and the others spent 3 days and came to a dark territory. This was where Ma Wenguang was stationed. When they arrived at the border of the demon territory, Shirwendi walked forward and led the way for Emo Qingyun and the others. Not long after, under Shirwendi's lead, they came to a canyon and shouted, "I, Shirwendi, am here to pay a visit to Divine General Ma Wenguang." As soon as Shirwendi said that, a group of armored men and horses flew out of the canyon. Chapter 2691. Welcome, Grand Tutor. Ma Wenguang came out of the canyon and greeted Wendy. Then, he knelt down before Wang Zishu and said, "Greetings, Your Highness." "Greetings, Your Highness." Seeing Ma Wenguang bow, the soldiers also knelt down. Seeing everyone's actions, Wang Zishu quickly waved her hand and said, "No need to be so polite. Everyone, please rise." Under Wang Zishu's signal, Ma Wenguang and the others thanked her and stood up one after another. Ma Wenguang stood up and looked at Mo Qingyun. He said, "If I'm not wrong, this should be Mr. Mo. Greetings, Divine General." Seeing that Ma Wenguang recognized him, Mo Qingyun nodded humbly. Ma Wenguang quickly waved his hand at Mo Qingyun's bow and said, "Mr. Mo, no need to be so polite. I have to thank you for protecting Her Highness. Zishu is my family. It's my duty to protect her." Mo Qingyun calmly responded to Ma Wenguang's words. Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Wang Zishu's beautiful face immediately brimmed with a sweet smile. From Mo Qingyun's words, she could tell that he approved of her. "Everyone, don't stand outside the canyon. Come in with me." After exchanging some pleasantries with Mo Qingyun and the others, Ma Wenguang beckoned everyone to follow him into the canyon. Then, under Ma Wenguang's lead, everyone entered the canyon together. The canyon was very spacious. At a glance, one could not see the end of it. It was like an independent world. In the canyon, there were many walls built to strengthen the defense of the canyon. After a while, under Ma Wenguang's lead, everyone came to a huge hall. "Your Highness, please have a seat." When Ma Wenguang came to the hall, he bowed to Wang Zishu, showing a respectful attitude. Seeing Ma Wenguang's behavior and recalling Lord Beishuan's actions, Mo Qingyun approved of him a little more. At least on the surface, Ma Wenguang treated Wang Zishu with more respect, as if he was a subject. In response to Ma Wenguang's request, Wang Zishu hesitated for a moment before sitting at the top of the hall. Seeing Wang Zishu sit down, Ma Wenguang sat down beside her and took the initiative to say, "Mr. Mo, I've heard about what happened to you. In that case, does the Divine General have any good suggestions for us to restore our country?" Hearing Ma Wenguang's words, Mo Qingyun used a consulting tone to ask for advice on some tactic. Ma Wenguang had always been in conflict with the Divine Wood Imperial Court, but he was able to hold his ground. It was enough to show his ability. Under Mo Qingyun's questioning, Ma Wenguang's expression turned solemn as he said in a low voice, "Putting everything else aside, your current decapitation operation is extremely unreasonable." Mo Qingyun's expression froze, and the curiosity on his face grew. He quickly consulted Ma Wenguang and said, "Divine General, please enlighten us so that we can make corrections." Seeing Mo Qingyun's attitude, Ma Wenguang nodded in appreciation and said, "Although the decapitation operation can destroy the cities of the Divine Wood Imperial Court and cause them some panic, this method is not suitable for restoring the country. It can only be used for sneak attacks and assassinations." After listening to Ma Wenguang's analysis, Mo Qingyun and the others nodded in agreement. With the strength of the Divine Wood Imperial Court, even if they lost a few city lords, it would not affect the overall situation. After explaining his thoughts, Ma Wenguang continued, "Therefore, I think that if we want to restore our country, we have to do it step by step, one step at a time, and take control of the territory of the Divine Wood continent little by little." Hearing Ma Wenguang's words, Mo Qingyun frowned and felt a great deal of pressure. He knew that doing so was the safest way, but it was extremely difficult. Not to mention the troops in his hands, he did not have the ability to command. Just as Mo Qingyun was feeling a headache, he looked at Ma Wenguang. If Ma Wenguang were to take action, he would not have to worry about this. At this time, Wendy, who had not spoken until now, said with a serious expression, "Divine General, you don't know. The strength that Wang Xiao and the others control is far more powerful than we imagined. It is very difficult to confront them head-on now. Ma Wenguang seemed to have expected Shi Wendi's worries. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he said, "Everyone, I have already made preparations for this. Once we withdraw from here, the devils in the demon domain will move out and invade the Divine Wood continent. At that time, with the devils holding back the Divine Wood Imperial Court, the pressure on us will be much less." Hearing Ma Wenguang's words, the eyes of Mo Qingyun and the others lit up. This was a good situation. Knowing Ma Wenguang's thoughts, Mo Qingyun showed an inquiring look again and asked, "According to the Divine General's plan, should we choose a base camp? Where should we set it?" Mr. Mo asked a good question. Ma Wenguang praised Mo Qingyun's question and said, "The demon domain is located in the south of the Divine Wood Imperial Court. In order to avoid friction with the devils, we suggest that the base camp be set up in the Ice Bull Archipelago in the north of the Divine Wood continent." As soon as Ma Wenguang finished speaking, Shi Wendi nodded in agreement and said, "The Ice Bull Archipelago is not far from the Heavenly Bull Divine Sect. We can look after each other. This is indeed the most suitable place." After explaining his thoughts, Ma Wenguang revealed a troubled expression. He said, "Although my plan is not bad, there is a huge problem. My troops cannot be moved. Once we leave the infernal domain, we will definitely be surrounded and annihilated by the Divine Wood Imperial Court. I can solve this problem." Mo Qingyun smiled faintly at Ma Wenguang's concern. In his opinion, no matter how many troops Ma Wenguang had, the Fortune mainland could hold them all. The only thing that made him feel helpless was that Ma Wenguang's group would expose the Fortune mainland's secret if they entered. However, in order to help Wang Zishu restore her empire, he couldn't care less. In that case, everyone should rest and reorganize first. After I give some instructions, we will move out. After discussing with Mo Qingyun and the others, Ma Wenguang did not want to delay any further and was ready to deploy his troops immediately. His swift and decisive action was a stark contrast to Pan Yong's earlier behavior. From this point, Mo Qingyun trusted Ma Wenguang even more. This was a loyal person. A short while later, under Ma Wenguang's arrangements, Mo Qingyun and the others settled down in a courtyard. When Mo Qingyun arrived at the courtyard, he did not stay idle, but started to arrange a formation. Although he wanted to move Ma Wenguang and the others to the Fortune mainland, he still wanted to conceal it. Chapter 2692. Although Shi Wendi and the others were curious to see Mo Qingyun arranging the array, they did not ask. In their opinion, Mo Qingyun was arranging the array to transfer Ma Wenguang and the others. While Mo Qingyun was arranging the array, Ma Wenguang came by several times to report their progress. During this time, he even asked Mo Qingyun several times if he needed any help. After learning from Mo Qingyun that they did not need any help, he did not ask further. Next, the crowd silently waited for Mo Qingyun to finish setting up the spirit formation. A few days later, under Mo Qingyun's guidance, a Grade 4 transmission array was completed. Not long ago, Mo Qingyun had advanced to a Grade 4 Saint Array Master based on Renjun's comprehension. Who would have thought that Mr. Mo is also a Grade 4 Saint Array Master? Ma Wenguang was astounded by Mo Qingyun's attainment in array formations, and his impression of Mo Qingyun rose even higher. He was more than clear about the role of a Grade 4 Saint Array Master. Divine General, you can gather everyone and leave through the transmission array. After the transmission array was completed, Mo Qingyun did not want to waste any time and immediately instructed Ma Wenguang. Hearing Mo Qingyun's instructions, Ma Wenguang dared not delay and immediately gathered the soldiers to enter the transmission array. Watching the soldiers enter the transmission array, Mo Qingyun connected to the Fortune mainland and transferred the soldiers to the transmission array. In order to prevent the soldiers from wandering around after entering the Fortune mainland, Mo Qingyun said to Ma Wenguang, "Divine General, the Fortune mainland is filled with dangers. Make sure they don't wander around after entering the Fortune mainland. Go in and take care of them." "Yes." Hearing Mo Qingyun's instructions, Ma Wenguang did not dare to delay and immediately entered the Fortune mainland. After sending Ma Wenguang to the Fortune mainland, Mo Qingyun pondered for a moment before looking at Shi Wendi and the others, saying, "Zishu, you all go in as well. If the Divine General needs anything, arrange it for them." "Okay." Hearing Mo Qingyun's instructions, Wang Zishu nodded and walked into the teleportation array. Wang Zishu was in charge of the Fortune Immortal Palace and was very familiar with the Fortune mainland. She was the most suitable person to settle everyone down. Subsequently, Mo Qingyun focused on controlling the array formation, sending Ma Wenguang's subordinates to the Fortune mainland. About a day later, under Mo Qingyun's continuous transportation, all of Ma Wenguang's subordinates arrived on the Fortune mainland. After transferring everyone to the Fortune mainland, Mo Qingyun's figure disappeared in a flicker, entering the Fortune mainland. "Mr. Mo, what is this place?" Seeing Mo Qingyun come in, Ma Wenguang was curious and immediately asked Mo Qingyun. Hearing Ma Wenguang's question, Shi Wendi and Yao Yu's faces also revealed intense curiosity. Under everyone's curious gazes, Mo Qingyun pondered for a moment, then said, "I accidentally discovered a low-level continent. I set up a teleportation formation here, so I can come here through the formation." "So that's how it is." After listening to Mo Qingyun's words, Ma Wenguang and the others nodded in understanding, not doubting Mo Qingyun's words. In their opinion, since Mo Qingyun brought them here, there was no need to lie to them. "I'll now open up a place. Let your subordinates settle down here." After talking with Ma Wenguang and the others, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately arranged a place for them to settle down. Under Mo Qingyun's actions, a forest was isolated, allowing Ma Wenguang and the others to settle down. "Young Master Mo, your methods have really broadened my horizons." After settling down his subordinates, Ma Wenguang revealed a look of admiration and said emotionally, "If it weren't for the fact that I don't know anything about formations, I would also want to find a low-level continent and refine it into a small world." Hearing Ma Wenguang's words, Shi Wendi immediately nodded, having the same idea. Hearing Ma Wenguang and the others' words, Mo Qingyun's expression changed as he made a major discovery, saying, "Listening to your words, I suddenly thought of something. The Dark Devil race was able to avoid being hunted down by other races, most likely because they controlled some small world." Mo Qingyun's words caused Ma Wenguang and the others' hearts to tremble, and a sense of alarm rose in their hearts. The situation must be like this, otherwise, how could the various races not find them when they were searching together? Hearing Mo Qingyun's guess, Shi Wendi nodded in agreement, then took the Fortune mainland as an example, saying, "Mr. Mo, for example, this mainland of yours, if we all hide here, no matter how powerful the Divine Wood Imperial Court is, they won't be able to find our whereabouts in the vast space. It seems that if we want to completely exterminate the Dark Devil race, we have to destroy their small world." At this moment, Mo Qingyun had a new direction for his plan to exterminate the Dark Devil race. After chatting with everyone for a while, Mo Qingyun did not want to waste any more time. He immediately said to everyone, "Since the soldiers have been settled, we should set off. Although the decapitation plan is not very useful, it can still cause some trouble for the Divine Wood Imperial Court." "That's right." Hearing Mo Qingyun's idea, Shi Wendi nodded, saying, "Causing trouble for the Divine Wood Imperial Court will reduce the pressure on us. This plan must continue." "That's right. Killing some of the city's leaders and the Dark Devil race's invasion will also cause trouble for the Divine Wood Imperial Court." Ma Wenguang thought for a moment and felt relieved, thus he agreed with the beheading plan. Then, Mo Qingyun led the group away from the Fortune mainland. Coming out from the Fortune mainland, Ma Wenguang looked at the canyon in front of him and said, "Since we're leaving, there's no need for this place to exist." As Ma Wenguang's words fell, he detonated the city's formation, destroying the city. As the city was destroyed, the Dark Devil Race's army that had been obstructed by the city immediately rushed over. Roar roar roar, a series of loud roars sounded. Following these roars, Mo Qingyun saw a black mass of the Dark Devil Race's army rushing towards them. Those are all low-level Dark Devil Race. They have no intelligence, just like killing machines. Looking at the black mass of the Dark Devil Race's army, Ma Wenguang's face turned solemn as he introduced them to Mo Qingyun, saying, "Let's go, lest we get surrounded by the Dark Devil Race's army and cause some unnecessary trouble." "All right." Hearing Ma Wenguang's words, Mo Qingyun nodded and summoned the Black Devil flying ship. After the Black Devil flying ship was summoned, Mo Qingyun led the group towards the Ice Bowl Archipelago. "Divine General, you're familiar with the Ice Bowl Archipelago's location. Empty the flying ship." While controlling the flying ship, Mo Qingyun thought for a while and handed the flying ship to Ma Wenguang. Ma Wenguang did not think much about Mo Qingyun's arrangement and directly took the Black Devil flying ship. "Gentlemen, if you encounter someone you can't deal with, use this to contact me." Mo Qingyun took out a jade slip and handed it to Ma Wenguang, then walked into the cultivation room. Not long after Mo Qingyun entered the cultivation room, Yao Yu also entered the cultivation room, leaving Shi Wendy and Ma Wenguang alone. The two of them did not care about this and continued to catch up as they hurried on their way. "Her Highness is so lucky to have met Mr. Mo. Yes, if she hadn't met Mr. Mo, even if we joined forces, it would have been difficult to help her restore her kingdom. Wang Xiao and the others are powerful, we can't be careless, we still have to be careful." On the way, Shi Wendy and Yao Yu chatted. In the cultivation room, Mo Qingyun sat cross-legged on the ground with a solemn expression and said, "I've finished cultivating the second stage of the Nine-Bull Divine Sword technique. Now it's time to cultivate the third stage. If I cultivate the third stage, my strength will definitely increase greatly." With this thought in mind, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately comprehended the third stage of the Nine-Direction Godly Bull Sword technique. Under Mo Qingyun's observation, he clearly understood the third stage of the Nine-Direction Godly Bull Sword technique. Just as he had guessed, the Nine Directions Divine Bull Sword technique was a refining technique to refine a powerful weapon. What made Mo Qingyun feel regretful was that with his current cultivation, he could not cultivate the third stage of the Nine-Direction Godly Bull Sword technique. If he wanted to cultivate the third stage of the Nine-Direction Godly Bull Sword technique, he had to be in the Universe Realm. "It seems that I have to break through to the Universe Realm as soon as possible." Mo Qingyun sighed in his heart. He had a plan and thought, although I can't cultivate the third stage of the Nine-Direction Godly Bull Sword technique, I can start collecting the materials to refine the Nine-Bull Divine Sword. The difficulty of refining the Nine-Bull Divine Sword and activating the third ability was clearly much higher. This time, he needed a total of 4 items. They were the Cosmic Light Source, the Primordial Spirit, the Star Nest Source, and the Universe Disk. The Primordial Spirit isn't difficult to obtain, but the other 3 are troublesome. When Mo Qingyun saw the 4 items he needed, he frowned. He felt a great sense of difficulty. He didn't even know what the Cosmic Light Source was, let alone find it. He knew what the Star Nest Source was. It was the Genesis Chi born from a planet. The difficulty of finding it was no less than finding the Star Nest Fire. Compared to the Star Nest Source, the last item was much more difficult to find. The Universe Disk was formed from the great Tao comprehensions of a quasi-sector lord. Its rarity was obvious. "It seems that I have to take it slow." When he saw the 4 items he needed, Emo Qingyun couldn't help but sigh and say, with our current cultivation, we're still unable to cultivate the third level of the 9-oxen sword technique, so there's no need to rush to collect them. Emo Qingyun muttered to himself. With a flicker of his figure, he entered the Fortune mainland. Although I can't cultivate the 9 Bulls Divine Bull Sword technique, I can hunt for Grand Mist spirits and refine them to raise my cultivation. After Emo Qingyun entered the Fortune continent, he arrived at the Primordial Mist Sea and snuck in to hunt the Primordial Spirit. Emo Qingyun swam for a while and arrived at the place where he had set up the array last time. However, the array was already destroyed. From the looks of it, some primordial spirit had mistakenly entered the array during this period of time. However, without Emo Qingyun guarding it, the array was quickly destroyed. Chapter 2693. Emo Qingyun's current array formation attainments had already reached the level of a level 4 Sacred Array Master. Therefore, it wasn't too difficult for him to repair this array formation. In just a few hours, Emo Qingyun managed to repair the damaged combined sacred array. After repairing the array formation, Emo Qingyun sat in a lotus position within the array formation and waited for the Hong Meng spirit to enter the array formation. Time passed little by little as Emo Qingyun waited. After a few hours, a faint fluctuation of array formation power was emitted from the array formation. Emo Qingyun was stunned when he sensed this fluctuation of array formation power. He knew that something had entered the array formation. Then, he released his soul power and sensed the array formation. Through Emo Qingyun's probing, he discovered that a primordial spirit in the form of a river eel had entered the array formation. Peak Celestial Domain Grade. Emo Qingyun scanned the river eel with his soul power and sensed the strength of the eel's Hong Meng spirit. Emo Qingyun smiled faintly when he found out the cultivation base of the river eel's Hong Meng spirit. A Hong Meng spirit of this level was what he needed the most at the moment. After all, he couldn't grasp the universe grade yet. Beginner and intermediate celestial domain grade spirits wouldn't be of much help to his cultivation. Emo Qingyun didn't hesitate any longer and immediately attacked the river eel's Hong Meng spirit. Spatial compression. A wave of spatial compression law emanated from Emo Qingyun's body and pressed down on the river eel's Hong Meng spirit. The river eel's Hong Meng spirit's mobility was greatly restricted when it was pressed down by the spatial compression law. After restricting the river eel's mobility, Emo Qingyun didn't hesitate any longer and slashed at it with his sword. A sword light streaked across the sky and struck the river eel's Hong Meng spirit in an instant, splitting it into two. Retrieve. After killing the river eel's Hong Meng spirit, Emo Qingyun raised his hand and took it back. Then, Emo Qingyun started refining it to improve his cultivation base. If he wanted to cultivate the third layer of the 9 Directions Godly Bull Sword technique, he had to increase his cultivation as soon as possible. More importantly, if he wanted to fight against the Dark Demon race, he needed more power. Otherwise, some people with the power of the planting law would have been able to take care of him easily. Dark Swallowing Heaven Gate. After collecting the river eel's primordial spirit, Emo Qingyun used his divine ability to devour and refine it. Under Emo Qingyun's refinement, a stream of pure primordial energy entered his body. Sensing the primordial energy in his body, Emo Qingyun did not hesitate and immediately refined it. To Emo Qingyun's surprise, when he was refining this primordial energy, a terrifying lightning energy suddenly appeared. The power of thunder and lightning struck Emo Qingyun's body crazily as soon as it appeared, tempering his body. I didn't expect that the river eel's primordial spirit's power would have such an effect. Discovering the situation in his body, Emo Qingyun's face lit up with joy as he made a bold guess. If that's the case, does the power of other primordial spirits also have other effects? Emo Qingyun's heart was filled with anticipation as he thought about it. He decided to study it carefully. Mo Qingyun pondered for a while before he collected his thoughts and immediately immersed himself in cultivation. As time passed, the aura emitted by Mo Qingyun became stronger and stronger. Not only that, but under the electric shock of the lightning energy, Mo Qingyun's physique also became stronger. Mo Qingyun was overjoyed when such a situation occurred, and he worked even harder to cultivate. In the following days, Mo Qingyun immersed himself in cultivation. Perhaps they were afraid of disturbing Mo Qingyun's cultivation, so Wendy and Mo Qingyun did not ask for his help along the way. Of course, with their strength, there were not many people that they could not defeat. In the blink of an eye, 6 days passed. After 6 days of continuous cultivation, Mo Qingyun's physique had improved to an extreme level. If this trend continues, I'll be able to break through after refining another river eel's primordial spirit. Sensing his situation, Mo Qingyun was filled with anticipation as he waited for the arrival of another river eel's primordial spirit. At this moment, a weak soul fluctuation appeared in his mind. The Grand Preceptor and Grand Preceptor are in trouble. It seems that they can't continue cultivating. After receiving Wendy and Mo Qingyun's request for help, Mo Qingyun immediately swam to the seaside to help them. After a while, he left the primordial fog sea and returned to the cabin in a flash. What kind of trouble did they encounter? When Mo Qingyun returned to the cabin, he came to Wendy and Mo Qingyun's side and asked about their situation. Hearing Mo Qingyun's inquiry, Wendy and Mo Qingyun's expressions tensed up. They pointed to a group of islands in front of them and said, "The Ice Bull Archipelago is up ahead." It's just that the Ice Bull Archipelago is now occupied by a mysterious force. Hearing this news, Mo Qingyun's expression froze. This was going to be troublesome. Following the direction Ma Wenguang pointed, Mo Qingyun saw a sect standing on an island. When Mo Qingyun saw the sect clearly, his expression shook as he felt a sense of familiarity. The Lonely Soul Sect. After a brief moment of surprise, Mo Qingyun recognized it and said in surprise, "I didn't expect them to establish a branch on the Divine Wood continent. It seems that destroying the Divine Wood Imperial Court is more difficult than I imagined." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Ma Wenguang was surprised and asked, "Mr. Mo, you know of this sect?" "That's right." Hearing Ma Wenguang's question, Mo Qingyun nodded and said, "I once told the Grand Tutor that there was a branch of the Dark Demon race on the battlefield between the Wood Source Galaxy and the Blood Soul Galaxy. That branch is the Lonely Soul Sect, which is of the same origin as this sect. A branch of the Dark Demon race." Knowing the origin of this sect, Ma Wenguang and Mo Qingyun were shocked and their expressions tensed up. With their current strength, they still had some confidence in dealing with Wang Shao and the others. However, if they were to deal with the Dark Demon race, they had no confidence at all. They did not even dare to resist. It could not be helped. The gap between the two was too big. They were not on the same level at all. Looking at the dignified expressions of Wendy and Mo Qingyun frowned and continued, "Although I know it's the Lonely Soul Sect, I'm not sure if this Lonely Soul Sect in front of us is the same one from the galactic battlefield. This sect is not weak. They have a total of 3 universe realm powerhouses. With the strength of the 3 of us, we can barely deal with them, but I'm afraid they have reinforcements. They definitely have reinforcements. Once they are attacked, Wang Shao and the others will definitely come to help." Thinking about dealing with the Lonely Soul Sect, Ma Wenguang and Mo Qingyun's expressions tensed up and they voiced some of their concerns. Hearing Ma Wenguang and Mo Qingyun's words, Mo Qingyun's face turned cold and said, "So, what we need to do now is to kill them all as quickly as possible before their reinforcements arrive. Is that possible?" Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Ma Wenguang's expression tensed up. He did not have much confidence. In his opinion, it was too difficult to kill a universe realm powerhouse. Compared to Ma Wenguang's surprise, Wendy was much more indifferent. After all, he had seen Mo Qingyun in action. At this moment, while Mo Qingyun and the other two were talking, an astonishing wave of saint power came from the cabin. When this wave of saint energy appeared, an astonishing spatial law was also emitted. Sensing the situation in the cabin, the three immediately showed joy. They knew what had happened. If they were not mistaken, Yao Yu's cultivation should have broken through and advanced to the universe realm. Yao Yu's cultivation had advanced to the universe realm. This was undoubtedly excellent news for them. What we want really comes true. Miss Yao Yu's cultivation breakthrough will be a great help to us. Seeing Yao Yu's cultivation breakthrough, Shi Wendy and Mo Qingyun's faces were filled with joy and excitement. Compared to the two's surprise, Mo Qingyun's mood was very calm. In his opinion, compared to Yao Yu's space law, her bloodline superpower was more powerful. Therefore, the difference between her and the universe realm was not particularly big. In that case, let's wait for Yao Yu to stabilize her cultivation. Seeing Yao Yu's cultivation breakthrough, Mo Qingyun was not in a hurry to act. He wanted to wait for Yao Yu to stabilize her cultivation. They waited for 3 days. In these 3 days, Mo Qingyun's group of 3 had attacked several times, intercepting and killing several solitary soul sect disciples. They had obtained some blood essence from the disciples of the solitary soul sect. The blood of hundreds of thousands of people. The dark demon race is indeed inhumane. Looking at the blood he had obtained, Ma Wenguang's expression darkened. He angrily said, "Just one branch collected the blood of hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people. One can only imagine how much the dark devil race collected. No wonder they provoked public anger, and everyone wanted to exterminate them." In response to Ma Wenguang's anger, Shi Wendy's face also darkened. He exuded an intense chill as he said, "It was precisely because the late emperor was unwilling to cooperate that he fell into the trap of the dark devil race and was killed by Wang Shao and the others. Wang Shao, that bunch of bastards, they're actually helping the evildoers, helping the dark devil race collect blood." Speaking of the dark demon race's atrocities, Ma Wenguang and Mo Qingyun's faces were filled with disdain and anger. Clearly, they were very dissatisfied with Wang Zhao's actions. Mo Qingyun did not pay attention to Ma Wenguang and Mo Qingyun's expressions. He was silently watching Yao Yu. At this moment, under Mo Qingyun's gaze, Yao Yu's cultivation stabilized. Shortly after, she walked out of the cultivation room and smiled sweetly at Mo Qingyun. "I've broken through to the universe realm, so I can help you better." "Okay." In response to Yao Yu's words, Mo Qingyun smiled faintly and nodded. He said, "We have not made a move yet because we were waiting for your strength. Do not be lazy later." "I don't believe you." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Yao Yu made a funny face and looked cute. After chatting with Yao Yu for a while, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated. He flew towards the Lonely Soul sect and said, "Let's go. We'll try to destroy the Lonely Soul sect as quickly as possible." Chapter 2694. Break. Mo Qingyun's figure appeared above the Lonely Soul sect in a flash and slashed downwards with his sword. Mo Qingyun's sword slashed out a purple sword light that blasted into the Lonely Soul sect. Boom! The purple sword light blasted into the Lonely Soul sect, causing a loud explosion and turning the Lonely Soul sect into ruins. Then, the disciples of the Lonely Soul sect were alerted and immediately flew towards the 4 of them. In a short while, Mo Qingyun and the other 3 were surrounded and looked at with hostility. "It's you again, kid." One of the universe grades from the Lonely Soul sect glanced at Mo Qingyun with a dark expression. "You snuck into my sect during the galaxy battlefield previously. How could I care about an ant like you? I didn't expect you to come and cause trouble again." "Elder Zhejiang, do you know this kid?" The other 2 elders of the Lonely Soul sect immediately asked when they heard what Zhejiang had said. They had clearly not expected that someone of Elder Zhejiang's status would actually know a Celestial Domain Grade Junior. "He's just a sneaky ant," Zhejiang replied disdainfully. His expression turned cold as he said, "Last time, I had important matters to attend to and didn't have the time to deal with him. This time, it's different." Zhejiang released an imposing aura that crushed down on Emo Qingyun after he said that. Emo Qingyun didn't move an inch in the face of Zhejiang's oppressive aura. He just stood there calmly. "Oh, you are actually able to resist my imposing aura. You are quite capable." Seeing Emo Qingyun's performance, Zhigan's expression changed slightly. Shock appeared in his eyes. He said, "Elder Qiming, Elder In Sun, leave this kid to me. You two lead the other disciples to deal with the remaining 3. Alright." The other 2 universe grades attacked Ma Wenguang and the other 2 after hearing Zhejiang's words. In just a short moment a great battle broke out. While Shi Wendy and the others were fighting, Zhigan revealed a cold smile. He looked at Emo Qingyun and said, "Kid, this old man admits that you are very capable. Last time in the Galactic Battlefield branch, you actually escaped from my perception. But this time, you won't be able to escape." After Zhigan finished speaking, he extended his palm and pressed it towards Emo Qingyun. "Great Heavenly Spirit God-suppressing palm." Zhigan struck out with his palm, and a terrifying burst of saint power erupted, transforming into a giant palm. Then, the palm pressed down on Emo Qingyun like a huge mountain. Petty tricks. Facing Zhigan's palm, Emo Qingyun didn't mind it at all. He smiled and swung the 9-oxen divine sword. Emo Qingyun brandished the 9-oxen divine sword, and immediately slashed out a sword aura, which tyrannically met the giant palm head-on. Poochie! Under the bombardment of the sword aura, the giant palm was directly cut in half and rapidly dissipated in mid-air. Seeing the power of Emo Qingyun's sword aura, Zhigan's expression froze. A look of shock appeared on his face as he said, "Although I didn't use the space law, my palm isn't something that a celestial domain grade can withstand. This kid is indeed a little strange." Zhigan was secretly shocked. The way he looked at Emo Qingyun changed drastically. After destroying Zhigan's palm, Emo Qingyun smiled disdainfully and said, "Old man, that palm of yours can't do anything to me." "Humph! Arrogant kid, this old man wants to see what kind of ability you have." Seeing Emo Qingyun's arrogant behavior, Zhigan's face immediately darkened, and a strong sense of anger welled up in him. Emo Qingyun didn't care about Zhigan's anger at all. He turned his head to look at Yao Yu and the other 2 and said, "I will take on the 3 of them alone. You guys don't have to worry about the other 2. Use all your strength to kill the other disciples." Space compression. As soon as Emo Qingyun said that, he unleashed the space law and flew towards Qiming and In Sun. Emo Qingyun's figure flashed and appeared in front of the 2 of them. Then, he slashed his sword at them. Emo Qingyun's sword slashed out, immediately scaring In Sun and Li Qie, forcing them to retreat in succession. Then, Yao Yu and the other 2 retreated from the battle and went to kill the other disciples of the Lonely Soul sect. In their opinion, Emo Qingyun's current actions were probably to stall the 3 of them. They would deal with the 3 of them together after they dealt with the other disciples. At that time, even if their reinforcements arrived, they would still be generals without an army. What an arrogant kid! He actually dares to take on the 3 of us alone. Now I'll show you the price of being too arrogant. Let's attack together and destroy this kid first before dealing with the others. Because Emo Qingyun's arrogant actions had completely infuriated Zhigan and the other 2, they didn't hold back. Space imprisonment. Space penetration. Space compression. In an instant, several types of space law powers were used on Emo Qingyun. Facing their space law attacks, Emo Qingyun wasn't afraid at all. He hurriedly waved the 9-bull divine sword. Under Emo Qingyun's swing, the 9-oxen divine sword erupted with a fierce aura, slashing out a sword light with an imposing aura. Ping, ping, ping. Under the bombardment of the sword light, a series of crisp sounds exploded in front of Mo Qingyun. Then, the space law that enveloped Mo Qingyun was overbearingly defeated. Space Gate. After defeating the 3's space law, Mo Qingyun didn't dare to hesitate and immediately used the space gate. Then, a faintly discernible light gate appeared above Mo Qingyun and entered his body. Space overlap. As the space gate entered his body, a mysterious space law was comprehended by Mo Qingyun. This time, the space law he obtained was something he had never encountered before. Space overlap. After obtaining the space overlap law, Mo Qingyun didn't hesitate and immediately used it on Zigon and the other 2. This time, he didn't use the space overlap law to hurt the 3 of them. He just wanted to see its power. Under the power of the space overlap law, Zigon and the other 2's positions immediately changed. Then, the 3 of them seemed to have become transparent. Seeing this scene, Mo Qingyun's heart moved and he gained a deeper understanding of the space overlap law. Space overlap law was to fold the surrounding space and form a multidimensional layer. This isn't an attack law, but a powerful assistance law. Mo Qingyun thought about it and his understanding of space overlap increased greatly. He thought to himself, in my current situation, obtaining the space overlap law is the best situation. Under the space overlap law, Zigon and the other 2's strength would be weakened to the minimum. Sword Energy, Nebula Saint Garment, Thunder Fire Dragon Sacred Body. After increasing his defensive power, Mo Qingyun didn't hesitate and immediately rushed towards Zigon and the other 2. Mo Qingyun's figure flashed and he appeared in the middle of the 3 and attacked them. Facing Mo Qingyun's attack, Zigon and the other 2 didn't dare to be careless and immediately dodged Mo Qingyun's attack. Space imprisonment, space compression, space penetration. While Zigon and the other 2 were dodging, they didn't show any weakness and counterattack. Facing the 3's space law attack, Mo Qingyun immediately waved the 9-bull divine sword and slashed the space in front of him. Then, his figure moved and dodged the 3's space law attack. Bang bang bang. When Mo Qingyun dodged the attack, the space around Zigon and the other 2 quickly collapsed. Then, Zigon and the other 2 gathered together and continued to attack Mo Qingyun. Facing Zigon and the other 2's attack, Mo Qingyun wasn't afraid at all and took the initiative to meet them. He said, I wasn't familiar with the space overlap so the 3 of you could take advantage of me. Now it's different. Without the support of the law, Mo Qingyun wasn't afraid of their attack in a head-on confrontation. Space overlap. Taking the 3's Saint Energy attack head-on, Mo Qingyun slapped them with his palm and blasted out another wave of space law. Then, Zigon and the other 2's bodies swayed and were separated into 3 layers of space again. Seeing this, Mo Qingyun's figure flashed and he took the initiative to attack Sun. This guy controlled the space penetration law and could defeat the space overlap law. Leaving him alive would be a huge problem. As long as he killed him, it would be much easier to deal with Zigon and Qiming. Defense ignore. Poisonous bull abdominal water sword. Mo Qingyun came in front of Qiming. He waved the divine 9-bull sword wildly and slashed out streaks of purple sword light. Facing Mo Qingyun's sword light, Sun didn't dare to take it head-on. Instead, he kept dodging. Mo Qingyun had long since expected Sun's reaction. A cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth as he said, I've long since expected that you would make such a move. However, the true might of my sword move isn't the attack on the surface, but the poison attack that it adds. When Mo Qingyun was speaking, Sun's aura fluctuation weakened significantly. Obviously, he was heavily poisoned by Mo Qingyun's sword technique. What a sneaky boy! He actually used poison to sneak an attack. Realizing the situation in his body, Sun's expression trembled. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Of course, while he was angry, he was more shocked and frightened. He didn't expect that with his cultivation, he would still be attacked by Mo Qingyun's poison attack. If that was the case, the poison that Mo Qingyun controlled was too terrifying. Mo Qingyun didn't care about In Sun's anger. With an indifferent expression, he said, "I'm fighting 1 against 3. If I don't use some tricks, I'll be playing with my life." After Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he didn't say anything else and attacked In Sun again. Since In Sun's body was poisoned, the circulation of his blood qi and saint power was greatly hindered. Then, facing Mo Qingyun's attack, he felt a great strain. "Oh no, I can't avoid it." Facing Mo Qingyun's attack again, In Sun finally couldn't avoid it. He panicked. Then, he could only brace himself to fight back. He slashed at the sword light that was slashing at him. However, what shocked In Sun was that the sword light he slashed out was useless against Mo Qingyun's sword light. This discovery frightened him quite a bit. It was something he had never thought of before. Chapter 2695. Pucci. Blood splattered as the sword radiance slashed at In Sun, cutting off one of his arms. In Sun cried out in pain as his arm was cut off. He used his remaining left arm to throw out a palm strike. Crack! Under In Sun's left palm strike, the overlapping space law was broken and he quickly escaped. Seeing In Sun's miserable state, Zigon and the other man were shocked. How is this possible? How can this kid be so powerful? Not good. If In Sun is killed, we won't be able to break the overlapping space law. We will be in a bad situation. At that time, we will be annihilated one by one. What a cunning kid. After guessing Mo Qingyun's intention, Zigon and the other man panicked and became anxious. However, even though they were anxious, they couldn't save In Sun. Subsequently, the two of them immediately attacked to create trouble for Mo Qingyun. Space imprisonment. Space compression. Under their attacks, Mo Qingyun's attack was slightly hindered. However, this level of hindrance wasn't enough to cause trouble for Mo Qingyun. Seeing that their space law had no effect on Mo Qingyun, Zigon and the other man were shocked. This kid is too strange. Our space law has no effect on him. It's not that it has no effect, but he has mastered a technique that can break the space law. How is this possible? Even a sector lord can't break the space law as he wishes. Seeing Mo Qingyun's performance, Zigon and the other man's face immediately turned solemn. Mo Qingyun didn't care about their performance. He only wanted to get rid of In Sun as soon as possible. "Kid, you've gone too far." Facing Mo Qingyun's continuous pursuit, In Sun was finally enraged. He acted as if he was going to die together with Mo Qingyun. Seeing In Sun's actions, Zigon and the other man's expression shook. They quickly shouted at him, "Elder In Sun, don't be rash. Quickly come and save us. We will protect you and leave." Hearing Zigon's shout, In Sun regained some of his senses and didn't fight Mo Qingyun with his life. "I thought you were really not afraid of death, but it turns out that you're just an empty shell." Seeing that In Sun had chosen to retreat, Mo Qingyun smiled contemptuously and said a disdainful sentence. As Mo Qingyun's words rang out, his figure moved, taking the initiative to charge towards In Sun. Mo Qingyun's figure flashed a few times, and he arrived beside In Sun and crazily brandished the 9-bull divine sword. With the ability to ignore defense and break through space, the power of Mo Qingyun's sword could be said to be earth-shattering. What made In Sun's head hurt even more was that Mo Qingyun's actions were even crazier than his own, completely unafraid of death. Under Mo Qingyun's attack, In Sun did not have the strength to resist at all and fell into a situation of being beaten. Seeing Mo Qingyun's battle situation, Sure Wendy's face was filled with shock. He said, "I didn't expect that this is Mr. Mo's true battle strength. His strength is already comparable to the mid-stage of the universe realm." No wonder Princess Zishu is safe and sound under his protection. This battle strength is really frightening. Seeing Mo Qingyun's strength, Ma Wenguang's expression was emotional. He said with emotion, "This way, when we face Wang Xiao and the others, we will have more confidence. His strength is even stronger than before. His speed of improvement is too fast." Yao Yu had fought side by side with Mo Qingyun before, so she was very clear about Mo Qingyun's strength in her heart. The strength that Mo Qingyun displayed this time was obviously stronger than before. Seeing Mo Qingyun's improvement, Yao Yu felt a little shocked. Originally, she had thought that after her cultivation had broken through to the universe realm, the gap between her and Mo Qingyun would shrink. Unexpectedly, even after her cultivation had broken through, the gap between her and Mo Qingyun was getting bigger and bigger. Yao Yu was absent-minded for a moment. She stopped thinking about it and helped Sure Wendy and Sure Wendy kill the Lonely Soul sect's disciples. Under the joint attack of Yao Yu and the other two, the Lonely Soul sect's disciples were in a situation where they were being slaughtered. In a short period of time, nearly half of the thousands of Lonely Soul sect's disciples had been killed. Seeing that nearly half of the Lonely Soul sect's disciples had been killed, Mo Qingyun's lips curled into a faint smile. He sneered at Yin Sun and said, "Nearly half of your disciples have been killed. What's the point of you living? Go accompany them in peace." "Brat, you've gone too far. Even if I'm going to die, I'll drag you down with me." Under Mo Qingyun's aggressiveness, Yin Sun exploded this time. He was no longer willing to endure. Yin Sun roared angrily. He ignited the blood in his body and forcibly increased his strength. As his bloodline was ignited, a mysterious power was born from his body. This power seems to be somewhat similar to Zhiwang's, but it's even stronger than Zhiwang's. Sensing the power in Yin Sun's body, Mo Qingyun's expression was one of shock. After a brief moment of shock, Mo Qingyun's expression tensed up and he pulled away from Yin Sun. Although he didn't know what kind of power it was, he was certain that it was stronger than the law of space. "Brat, I'll let you experience the power of the Archean era," Yin Sun roared. He clenched his left fist and punched at Mo Qingyun. Archean World Extinguishing Fist. When Yin Sun punched out, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Space shattered one after another. The power of this punch had completely exceeded Mo Qingyun's understanding. This wasn't the power of a universe realm expert. So strong. Seeing the power of Yin Sun's punch, Mo Qingyun's expression trembled. He couldn't help but feel a sense of fear. Immediately, Mo Qingyun didn't dare hesitate and immediately slashed at the fist light. Space overlapped. Under Mo Qingyun's sword, the space in front of him immediately began to wrinkle. Then, Yin Sun's punch and the space in front of him staggered. "It's useless." Seeing Mo Qingyun's actions, Yin Sun sneered, as if he had expected Mo Qingyun to do this. As soon as Yin Sun's words fell, a terrifying explosion came from the space in front of Mo Qingyun. Then, a terrifying storm of power swept towards Mo Qingyun. Seeing this, Mo Qingyun didn't dare to be careless and hurriedly slashed forward. Space splitter. Mo Qingyun's sword slashed out and the space in front of him was immediately shattered. As the space was shattered, the terrifying storm of power was swallowed into the space crack. Because of this, Yin Sun's punch was neutralized by Mo Qingyun. What a strong power! This level of power has completely surpassed Saint power. Seeing the power of Yin Sun's punch, Mo Qingyun stopped being careless. This guy was harder to deal with than he had imagined. While Mo Qingyun was shocked, he was also curious. He guessed, if I'm not wrong, Yin Sun's ability to use this power should be related to his bloodline ignition. If that's the case, there must be some kind of restriction on him being able to use this power. With this thought in mind, Mo Qingyun felt much more relaxed. Otherwise, if Yin Sun continued to use this power, there would be no need to continue fighting. Under this kind of attack, Even Mo Qingyun's methods would be overbearingly smashed to pieces by him. Break. After repelling Mo Qingyun with a punch, Yin Sun punched out and broke the space around Zigon. Then, Zigon and Zigon flew towards Yin Sun and quickly came to his side. They said, "This guy is very strange. We can't continue fighting with him. Let's go back first." "No, this guy forced me to ignite my bloodline ignition. I must kill him to vent my anger." Yin Sun immediately rejected Zigon and Zigon's advice. He stared at Mo Qingyun with a sinister gaze. Hearing Yin Sun's words, Zigon and Zigon exchanged a look and did not say anything else. They could understand Yin Sun's feelings. Yin Sun had ignited his bloodline ignition. From now on, he would have no bloodline ignition and his strength would be greatly reduced. Although he would still be a universe realm expert, he could only be one for the rest of his life. "You two help me to restrict that guy's movements. I want to blast him into pieces." Looking at Zigon and Zigon, Yin Sun said angrily. He then flew towards Mo Qingyun. Hearing Yin Sun's words, Zigon and Zigon nodded and followed beside him. Space compression. Seeing Yin Sun attack, Qi Ming used space compression to shorten the distance between Mo Qingyun and Yin Sun. Under the power of space compression, Yin Sun's figure moved and arrived in front of Mo Qingyun. Space imprisonment. When Yin Sun arrived in front of Mo Qingyun, a wave of space law power suddenly appeared around Mo Qingyun. Then, Mo Qingyun was restrained, unable to move in the slightest. Not good. Sensing his own situation, Mo Qingyun was shocked and a strong sense of uneasiness rose within him. Soon after, he no longer hesitated and immediately used the spatial overlap technique. Then, his figure flickered and entered another layer of space. "Kid, you can't escape. Accept your death obediently." Looking at Mo Qingyun in front of him, Yin Sun grinned and threw out a punch. Under Yin Sun's punch, a terrifying force turned into a fist shadow and blasted out. After throwing out this punch, Yin Sun's face was obviously pale. It seemed that continuously using the Archean power had consumed a lot of his energy. Judging from Yin Sun's performance, I can withstand another round of attacks and he won't be a threat anymore. Seeing Yin Sun's reaction, Mo Qingyun's expression changed, as if he had understood something. Then, he no longer hesitated and immediately used all kinds of divine abilities to increase his defense. Bang! While Mo Qingyun was using various divine abilities, the fist shadow blasted the space in front of him and exploded with a loud bang. When this loud sound appeared, a scene that made his heart palpitate appeared. Yin Sun's fist shadow carried the space penetration law and instantly pierced through 3 layers of space. Oh no, Yin Sun has comprehended the space penetration law. Looks like I can only fight with my life on the line. Seeing his situation, Mo Qingyun roared and slashed at Yin Sun. He shouted, "If you want to kill me, you'll have to pay a painful price." Chapter 2696. Pucci. The sword light's speed was even faster, hitting Yin Sun first, directly chopping off his head. When Yin Sun's head was chopped off, his primordial spirit was also destroyed, his soul dispersing into nothingness. Bang! At the same time as Yin Sun was killed, Mo Qingyun was also hit by a fist shadow, his body flying out at a high speed. In the next second, Mo Qingyun crashed into a small island like a comet. Boom! When Mo Qingyun's body hit the island, an earth-shattering boom came from the small island. Then, the small island began to crumble, sinking to the bottom of the river bit by bit. Watching this scene, Yao Yu and the other two shuddered, a strong sense of worry on their faces. If Mo Qingyun encountered any danger, their situation would be extremely bad. Nothing must happen to him. Among the 3 of them, Ma Wenguang was the most worried. His subordinates were still on the Fortune mainland. If something happened to Mo Qingyun, how was he going to contact his subordinates and ask them to leave the Fortune mainland? He will definitely be fine. Compared to Ma Wenguang's worry, Yao Yu was more confident that Emo Qingyun would be fine. In her opinion, although Yin Sun was strong, he was not much stronger than Wu Tuo. In the past, Emo Qingyun's strength was far from what it was now. In his battle with Wu Tuo, Huang Xiaolong had injured Wu Tuo and forced him to retreat. If that was the case, how could he be killed by a single punch from Yin Sun in their fight? Is that punk dead? Hard to say. Even if he's not dead, his injuries are not light. This is a good opportunity to kill him, we must not miss it. Looking at the small island that had exploded, Zigon and Yao Yu's expressions fluctuated as they discussed in the air. Seeing Zigon and Yao Yu's reaction, Wendy immediately guessed their thoughts, saying, "Let's go to the island immediately, in case Qingyun comes out from the island and is ambushed by those two people." With Wendy's reminder, Yao Yu and Yao Yu hurriedly followed him, and arrived in the sky above the island. Seeing the actions of Wendy's group, Zigon and the other two's faces darkened as they felt a strong sense of anger. Their plan was seen through, which made them very unhappy. It was impossible for the two of them to kill Emo Qingyun in front of Wendy and the other two. At this moment, as Zigon and Ziyan's faces darkened, Emo Qingyun slowly flew up from the bottom of the river. At this moment, his clothes were tattered and his body was covered with wounds. He looked extremely miserable. "Qingyun, are you okay? Mr. Emo, how are you feeling?" Seeing Emo Qingyun's appearance, Yao Yu and the other two revealed joyful expressions, and they anxiously showed concern. In response to their concern, Emo Qingyun smiled faintly and waved his hand, saying, "I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me. Let's kill the two of them first." After Emo Qingyun finished speaking, his expression turned cold as he flew towards Zigon and Yao Yu. If one observed carefully, Emo Qingyun's current flying speed was much slower than before. However, under the current circumstances, no one noticed this. "Okay." Seeing Emo Qingyun's actions, Wendy hurriedly followed him to deal with Zigon and Yao Yu. Looking at Emo Qingyun and the other three attacking, Zigon's face twitched. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth and shouted angrily, "Damn brat. How can he still have the strength to fight after being attacked like that?" After saying this angry sentence, Zigon did not dare to stay any longer. He immediately said to Qi Ming, who was beside him, "Let's go." Zigon threw out this sentence and turned to leave, not caring about the life or death of his disciples. Seeing Zigon's actions, Qi Ming hurriedly followed, and also did not care about the life or death of his disciples. Seeing Zigon and Yao Yu leave, the disciples of the Lonely Soul sect were all in despair. Emo Qingyun did not care about the feelings of these disciples. Seeing that Zigon and Yao Yu had escaped, he stopped in his tracks. In his current state, he was not suitable for a long-distance chase. "Mr. Emo, the two of them have escaped. Are we not going to continue chasing?" Seeing that Emo Qingyun had stopped, Wendy revealed an inquiring expression and asked Emo Qingyun about his plan. Hearing Wendy's words, Emo Qingyun shook his head and said in a low voice, "Just now, I took Yin Sun's punch and suffered serious injuries. I need to cultivate and heal as soon as possible. I attacked Zigon and Yao Yu not to kill them, but to force them to retreat." After hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Wendy and the others understood what Emo Qingyun meant. After explaining his thoughts, Emo Qingyun pointed to the disciples of the Lonely Soul sect and said, "I need to cultivate and heal. I'll leave these people to you." "Okay." Hearing Emo Qingyun's instructions, Ma Wenguang and the others nodded and attacked the disciples of the Lonely Soul sect. Seeing that Ma Wenguang and the others attacked, Emo Qingyun did not hesitate and immediately found an island to cultivate. Not long after Emo Qingyun started cultivating, the remaining disciples of the Lonely Soul sect were all slaughtered. After slaughtering the disciples of the Lonely Soul sect, Ma Wenguang and the others collected the spoils of war and emptied the Lonely Soul sect's treasury. After doing all this, They came to Emo Qingyun's side and guarded Emo Qingyun while he cultivated. While they guarded Emo Qingyun, they also cultivated and adjusted their breathing to recover the energy they had consumed in the battle. Although they weren't in any danger when dealing with ordinary disciples, they were still exhausted. The time that followed slowly passed just like that. 3 days passed quickly. After 3 days of cultivation, Emo Qingyun's injuries stabilized. He withdrew from his cultivation and thought to himself, I was careless this time. The Dark Devil race's methods are truly powerful. They were actually able to research the use of bloodline power to such a degree. Emo Qingyun sighed with emotion. Then he frowned slightly and began to think quickly. Although In Sun burned his bloodline power and strengthened his bloodline power, it was only close to the absolute beginning Dark Fortune bloodline. Thinking back to In Sun's eruption of bloodline power, Emo Qingyun frowned. He came up with a bold idea. If that's the case, if In Sun can use the power of the immemorial era, can I do the same? Emo Qingyun decided to give it a try. He wanted to condense the power of the Archean era in his body. Then, a terrifying bloodline power erupted from Emo Qingyun's body. Yao Yu and the others revealed shocked expressions when they felt the pressure from the bloodline power. What a powerful bloodline power! The pressure of this bloodline power is even stronger than In Sun's. I didn't expect Mr. Mo's bloodline to be so powerful. It seems that his background must be very powerful. You're all wrong. His background isn't powerful at all. In fact, you could even say that he has no background at all. Yao Yu and the others sighed with emotion when they saw Emo Qingyun's performance. Hearing Yao Yu's last sentence, Shi Wendy and the other man were puzzled. They asked curiously, Miss Yao Yu, why do you say that? Is Mr. Mo not a genius from a powerful faction? No. Yao Yu shook her head in response to Shi Wendy and the other man's question. I've talked with Princess Zishu before, so I know some things about him. He comes from a very low-level continent. That's the origin of martial arts. What? He comes from a low-level continent? From such a low-level continent? He came here step by step? That's too monstrous. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. After listening to Yao Yu's story, Shi Wendy and the other man were shocked. They found it unbelievable. Next, Yao Yu told Shi Wendy and the other man about Emo Qingyun's achievements. After listening to Yao Yu's story, Shi Wendy and the other man were completely stunned. Their worldview had completely collapsed. They had to admit that Emo Qingyun's achievements had shocked them both. Sigh. I failed. While they were talking, Emo Qingyun looked regretful. He shook his head in disappointment and said, It seems that it's not easy to awaken the Archean power. I still have to explore it bit by bit. Seeing that Emo Qingyun had stopped cultivating, Shi Wendy and the other man quickly approached him and asked, How are your injuries? Is there anything wrong? My injuries are no longer a problem. Hearing Shi Wendy and the other man's words of concern, Emo Qingyun smiled faintly and shook his head. He said, I just encountered some difficulties in my cultivation. I still need to put in some effort. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Yao Yu and the other man's expressions relaxed. Their hearts were completely at ease. As long as Emo Qingyun's injuries were no longer a problem, nothing else mattered. Encountering difficulties in cultivation was the most normal thing. If there weren't any difficulties in the process of cultivation, wouldn't he have broken through to the Emperor realm directly? Grand Tutor, Divine General, since we've taken down the Ice Bull Archipelago, it's time to build a base camp. After explaining his injuries to everyone, Emo Qingyun changed the topic and discussed the construction of their base camp. He said, Building a base camp requires a stable formation. I'll make a trip to the Divine Heavenly Bull sect and invite the brilliant Gang Supreme Elder over to help us set up a level 5 sacred array. Okay. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Ma Wenguang and the other two nodded. They agreed with Emo Qingyun's idea. Shortly after, Wendy pondered for a moment before he said to Emo Qingyun, "Young Master Emo, the Divine General and I will stay behind to survey the area. We'll choose an island to build a base camp on. You and Miss Yaoyue will head to the Heavenly Bull Divine Sect and invite their Saint Array Master over." "Then it's decided." Emo Qingyun nodded in agreement to Wendy's suggestion. He then nodded to Yao Yu and said, "Time is of the essence. Let's not delay any longer and head to the Divine Heavenly Bull Sect immediately." "Okay." Yao Yu nodded at Emo Qingyun's words and left with him on the black demonic flying ship. Seeing that Emo Qingyun and Yao Yu had left, Wendy and the other man did not delay. They exchanged a look and said, "Let's not waste any more time. Let's check out the terrain of the nearby island." The two of them exchanged a sentence and flew to the various islands to choose the island to build a base camp. Chapter 2697. A few hours later. With Emo Qingyun and Emo Qingyun hurrying along, they arrived at the Heavenly Bull Divine Sect. Knowing that Emo Qingyun had returned, Guang Ping and the others immediately gathered, wanting to know the progress of the restoration of their nation. In the conference hall, Guang Ping and the others gathered here, each with a nervous expression, looking at Emo Qingyun and Huang Ping. "Things are going well. In the process of this operation, we have found many allies." Under everyone's watchful eyes, Emo Qingyun briefly recounted the recent happenings to everyone. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Guang Ping and the others were overjoyed, and a bright smile appeared on their faces. If that was the case, it was undoubtedly excellent news for them. "Qingyun, who are the allies you found this time? Hurry up and tell us." Knowing that Emo Qingyun had found some allies, Guang Ping was curious and immediately asked. Hearing Guang Ping's question, Emo Qingyun did not hide and told him truthfully, "I found 3 allies this time, namely the Divine General of the nation Ma Wenguang, King Beixian of the Divine Wood Court, and the forest elves who have been missing for a long time." Emo Qingyun mentioned 3 allies because he was worried that in the upcoming expedition they would avoid accidental injuries. "Ma Wenguang is loyal and righteous, this is a trustworthy ally. This King Beixian is idle, I'm afraid it's not appropriate to cooperate with him. I didn't expect the forest elves to have survived, this is a little surprising. The forest elves were a 3-star force at their peak, it's a good idea to cooperate with them." After knowing who they were cooperating with, everyone expressed their views. After knowing some of his allies, Guang Ping was curious and asked, "Qingyun, since we have found our allies, when are we going to take action? You just returned to the sect, are you going to lead everyone on an expedition?" "We're not in a hurry to go on an expedition, we still need to deploy." Emo Qingyun gave a simple response to Guang Ping's question. He then looked at Huang Gang and said, "Since we want to fight against the Divine Wood Imperial Court, we cannot be like rootless duckweed. We need to build a stronghold." Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Guang Ping and the others nodded in agreement. That was indeed the case. "Have you found a stronghold?" Hearing Emo Qingyun's thoughts, Palace Master Hua asked with concern. Emo Qingyun nodded when he heard Hall Master Hua's words. He said, "The location of the stronghold has been chosen. It will be at the Ice Bull Archipelago, which is not far from the sect. However, the construction of the stronghold will require a formation. When I return to the sect this time, I would like to ask Master to set up a defensive formation." "That's not a problem." Huang Gang immediately agreed to Emo Qingyun's request. He asked, "It just so happens that I have nothing to do recently. It's good to go out for a walk. When are we leaving?" Hearing Huang Gang's question, Emo Qingyun did not hold back and directly said, "Time is of the essence now. Of course, the sooner the better." Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Guang Ping looked at Huang Gang and the others and said, "If that's the case, Supreme Elder Huang Gang, please issue a decree and gather some disciples to head to the Ice Bull Archipelago." All right, I'll do it right away. After Huang Gang said those words, he left the discussion hall. After giving Huang Gang some instructions, Guang Ping looked at Emo Qingyun and said, Qingyun, when you're building the stronghold, the Divine Wood Imperial Court will probably cause trouble. Can you send some disciples as reinforcements? There's no need. Emo Qingyun directly rejected Guang Ping's inquiry. He said, if the Divine Wood Imperial Court wants to cause trouble, they will definitely not send ordinary soldiers. Therefore, it's meaningless for ordinary disciples to go. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Guang Ping said more and agreed with him. After talking about the construction of the stronghold, Emo Qingyun changed the topic and reminded Guang Ping of the Divine Wood Imperial Court's revenge. He had caused a huge commotion this time. Wouldn't Wang Xiao and the others be furious and vent their anger on the Heavenly Bull Divine sect? Not long after. While Emo Qingyun and the others were talking, Huang Gang came with a group of people and said, Qingyun, we're ready. When do we set off? In that case, let's set off immediately. Hearing Huang Gang's question, Emo Qingyun did not want to delay and immediately set off with everyone. After leaving the Heavenly Bull Divine sect, Emo Qingyun controlled the Black Demon flying ship and rushed towards the Ice Bull archipelago. On the way, Emo Qingyun told Huang Gang some of the situation at the Ice Bull archipelago. After listening to Emo Qingyun's explanation, Huang Gang had a rough idea of how to set up a defensive formation. Immediately, Huang Gang instructed the disciples to prepare some materials for setting up the formation. Not long after, the materials were engraved with profound formation runes. At this moment, the principle of strength in numbers was fully demonstrated. Several hours quickly passed. In just a few hours of traveling, many of the materials were engraved with formation runes. In this way, it would save a lot of time when it was time to set up the formation. After several hours of traveling, everyone arrived at the Ice Bull archipelago. As soon as the Black Demon flying ship arrived, Wendy and Huang Gang rushed over and told Emo Qingyun about the situation. In that case, let's go and take a look. After knowing that Wendy and Huang Gang had chosen an island, Emo Qingyun did not want to delay and prepared to take a look at the island. Immediately, Emo Qingyun and the others went to the island to check out the terrain of the island. On the way to the island ahead, Emo Qingyun introduced everyone to each other so that they could get to know each other. Not long after, everyone arrived on the island and carefully observed it. The island was very large, the largest among all the islands. There were other islands surrounding the island, making it easy to defend and difficult to attack. As expected of a divine general, you have sharp eyes. This is a very good stronghold. Huang Gang observed his surroundings and revealed a look of admiration as he praised Ma Wenguang. Hearing Huang Gang's words, Ma Wenguang immediately laughed and said awkwardly, Grandmaster Huang Gang is too serious. I only considered the terrain, but I don't know anything about setting up a formation. Huang Gang did not refute Ma Wenguang's words. He raised his hand and pointed at the surrounding islands. There are a total of 9 islands around this island, like 9 dragons on a pilgrimage. If we use these 9 islands as the foundation, we can set up a 9 dragons pilgrimage heavenly formation. 9 dragons pilgrimage heavenly formation? Wendy frowned when he heard Huang Gang's words. He said in surprise, I've once read about it in an ancient book. It said that the 9 dragons pilgrimage heavenly formation is extremely profound. When it's attacked, it will absorb fate from 9 directions to strengthen the formation's defenses. Grandmaster is really knowledgeable and knowledgeable. What you said is correct. After hearing Wendy's words, Huang Gang laughed and praised him. Then he said, Since we want to restore our country, then we must have enough fate. Otherwise, even if we succeed, without enough fate, the kingdom wouldn't be able to survive. Wendy and the others nodded in agreement with Huang Gang's words. This was indeed the case. If that's the case, we'll have to trouble Master. After hearing Huang Gang's explanation, Mo Qingyun did not say anything else. The formation was confirmed to be the Nine Dragons Pilgrimage Heavenly Formation. After confirming the defensive formation, Huang Gang and the others did not dare to delay and immediately set it up. Seeing Huang Gang and the others setting up the formation, Ma Wenguang did not want to stay idle. He immediately said to Mo Qingyun, "Mr. Mo, since Grandmaster Huang Gang is setting up the formation, we can't just watch. We should start building some palaces. Move my subordinates out and let them build palaces for the Great Lord." "Alright." Hearing Ma Wenguang's words, Mo Qingyun nodded. After Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he began to set up the teleportation formation to move Ma Wenguang's subordinates over. A day later, under Mo Qingyun's arrangement, a teleportation formation was completed. After the teleportation formation was set up, Ma Wenguang's subordinates were moved out one after another. After doing all this, Mo Qingyun said to Shirwendi and Huang Gang, "My cultivation has reached a bottleneck. I'm preparing to go into seclusion to break through. I'll leave this to the two of you. Mr. Mo, don't worry about going into seclusion. We'll take care of this." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Ma Wenguang and Huang Gang immediately promised and gave Mo Qingyun a reassuring look. Seeing the two of them say so, Mo Qingyun did not say anything else. He nodded and said, "If the Divine Wood Imperial Court invades and you can't deal with it, you can notify me through the communication jade token. I'll come out of seclusion to help you." "Alright." Shirwendi and Huang Gang nodded. After settling everything, Mo Qingyun did not delay any longer and immediately went into seclusion to break through his cultivation. Mo Qingyun's figure flickered and entered the Fortune mainland, rushing towards the Grand Mist Fog Sea. In next to no time, Mo Qingyun arrived at the Primordial Mist Sea, and he directly leaped into it. After Mo Qingyun entered the Grand Mist Fog Sea, he swam towards the teleportation formation, waiting for the Grand Mist Spirit to take the bait. What surprised Mo Qingyun was that there was actually a river eel Grand Mist Spirit inside the teleportation formation. What made him even happier was that this river eel Grand Mist Spirit's cultivation had suddenly reached the quasi-universe realm. If he refined this Grand Mist Spirit, his cultivation and physique would be able to break through. In that case, I won't be polite. Looking at the river eel Grand Mist Spirit inside the teleportation formation, Mo Qingyun grinned and reached out to capture it. Under Mo Qingyun's attack, a terrifying space compression law burst out from his palm. Under the control of the space compression law, the river eel Grand Mist Spirit's movements were immediately restrained. Then, Mo Qingyun slashed at the river eel, killing it in an instant. After killing the river eel's spirit of primordial chaos, Mo Qingyun revealed an expression of anticipation as he said, "Once I refine this river eel's spirit of primordial chaos, my physique will advance, and my cultivation might break through as well." Chapter 2698. A few days later. Inside a formation in the primordial fog sea, an astonishing aura fluctuation suddenly spread out from the array. This was the sign of breaking through to the midstar sector level. Inside this formation, someone's cultivation had broken through and advanced to the midstar sector level. After this aura fluctuation, an even stronger aura fluctuation burst out from the formation. When this aura burst out, the entire primordial fog sea tumbled, and cracks appeared on the seabed. Then, waves of blazing lava turned into a fire dragon that soared into the sky. This fire dragon shot out and flew toward a young man. In the blink of an eye, the young man was engulfed. The young man was engulfed by the flames, and the aura he emitted was constantly growing stronger. Slowly, the flames disappeared as the young man completely refined them. My physique has successfully advanced and transformed into the Earth Demon Sacred Physique. Sensing the transformation of his physique, Mo Qingyun was delighted. A bright smile appeared on his face as he said, "According to the performance of my physique, my current sacred physique should be the Earth Demon Violent Thunder Rage Dragon Sacred Physique." The Earth Demon Sacred Physique had an obvious characteristic. When activated, it could resonate with the earth and absorb a powerful force of heaven and earth. Mo Qingyun's physique performance matched the Earth Demon Violent Thunder Rage Dragon Sacred Physique. Seeing his situation, Mo Qingyun did not think too much and cultivated to stabilize his realm. In the blink of an eye, several hours passed. After several hours of cultivation, Mo Qingyun's cultivation stabilized. The formation is broken. If I want to capture the primordial spirit, I have to continue setting up the formation. Mo Qingyun stopped cultivating. He realized that the formation around him had been destroyed because of his breakthrough. Seeing such a situation, Mo Qingyun hesitated, wondering if he should rearrange the array formation. While Mo Qingyun was hesitating, Wendy and the other received a message asking for his help. The Divine Wood Imperial Court is quite fast. After receiving Wendy's message, Mo Qingyun immediately guessed the reason. The Divine Wood Imperial Court had attacked. Immediately, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated and swam toward the shore of the primordial fog. With the advancement of his physique, the pressure of the seawater on him had significantly weakened. However, Mo Qingyun wasn't in the mood to care about this right now. Mo Qingyun's figure flashed and returned to the island. He saw the intense battle around him. They saw a group of people fighting against Wendy and the others, completely suppressing them. 5 Universe Realm experts and 17 Quasi-Universe Realm experts. Sensing everyone's cultivation, Mo Qingyun's eyes narrowed as a cold look appeared on his face. The people of the Divine Wood Court really think highly of me. They actually sent so many powerhouses. Mo Qingyun mumbled to himself. He then flew towards Yao Yu and the others, wanting to help them resolve the crisis. Space door. As soon as Mo Qingyun's figure moved, he unleashed the spatial door to increase his strength. Then, a faintly discernible door of light appeared above him and entered his body. Spatial shackles, very good. As the spatial door entered his body, Mo Qingyun knew that it was the law of space that he had obtained this time. Immediately, he struck out with his palm and released a wave of law of space. Soon, the space around the 2 people who were besieging Yao Yu was shackled. Seeing that the space around them was shackled, her pretty face immediately lit up with joy. She quickly flew towards Wendy and Yao Yu. In her opinion, there wouldn't be any problem leaving the 2 of them to Mo Qingyun. Of Zigon's group of 3, 1 had been killed and 2 had fled by Mo Qingyun, not to mention these 2. Spatial compression. After shackling the space around them, Mo Qingyun's figure flashed and arrived in front of them. When he arrived above them, Mo Qingyun slashed out with his sword and blasted out an imposing sword ray. Sky-piercing. Ignoring defense. When Mo Qingyun slashed out with his sword, he used the divine sword of 9 bulls to increase the power of the sword. The speed of the sword ray was extremely fast and could be said to have arrived in an instant. Before the spatial shackles could be broken, the sword ray was already in front of them, making it impossible for them to dodge. We can't escape. Block it with all your might. He's just a celestial domain grade kid. How powerful can his sword be? Don't be careless. This kid is very strange. We have to deal with him with all our might. Seeing the approaching sword ray, the 2 of them exchanged a few words and attacked to block the sword ray. As the 2 of them attacked, 2 terrifying waves of saint power erupted from their bodies. Immediately, these 2 terrifying waves of saint power turned into a fist shadow and a blade ray. What shocked the 2 of them was that Mo Qingyun's sword ray actually penetrated the fist shadow and the blade ray. Oh no, I forgot that this kid's ability can penetrate any defense. Seeing the sword ray's performance, the 2 of them trembled as they made an important discovery. Unfortunately, they had discovered it too late. It was too late to dodge. Pfff, the sword ray swept past and their heads exploded. They were instantly killed by Mo Qingyun's sword. Seeing this scene, the rest of the people from the Divine Wood Court immediately turned pale with fright. With just one sword stroke, 2 universe realm powerhouses had been killed. This kind of combat power was really terrifying. Mr. Mo's strength seems to be stronger than before. Once we kill those 2, our situation will be reversed. Humph. You guys have been arrogant for so long. It's our turn to fight back. Mo Qingyun's killing of the 2 universe realm powerhouses instantly boosted Yao Yu and the rest's fighting spirit. Seeing the drastic change in the situation, the powerhouses from the Divine Wood Court immediately had the intention to retreat. Given their current strength, it would be difficult for them to deal with Wendy and the others. Not to mention, there was still a stronger Mo Qingyun behind Wendy and the others. Do you think you can escape if you want to? Ma Wenguang saw through their intentions when he saw that the powerhouses from the Divine Wood Court were escaping the battle circle bit by bit. Immediately, Ma Wenguang's figure moved and blocked their escape route. Ma Wenguang was indeed a divine general, a man who was good at tactics. The position he moved at this moment blocked their escape route, but he did not have to face them head-on. The people from the Divine Wood Court had no chance to break out of the encirclement. They were caught in a dilemma. While they were hesitating, Mo Qingyun's figure flashed and arrived in front of Ma Wenguang. Mo Qingyun's arrival completely cut off their escape route, leaving them with no choice but to fight desperately. Space compression. Mo Qingyun came in front of them and did not talk nonsense with them. He directly slammed his palm toward them. Then, the distance between the people from the Divine Wood Court was immediately shortened infinitely. This situation was a bit like gathering monsters in games, gathering them together before killing them. Seeing this situation, the people from the Divine Wood Court felt a strong sense of uneasiness in their hearts. Immediately, they subconsciously thought of the fate of the 2 people in front of them. Mo Qingyun's current move was to destroy them in one move. Chapter 2699. Under their horrified gazes, a sword gleam slashed toward them at an extremely fast speed. Soon, the sword gleam penetrated the confined space and instantly engulfed them. Engulfed by the sword gleam, they immediately let out a blood-curdling scream, as if their hearts and lungs were being torn apart. Mo Qingyun did not show mercy to their screams. Instead, his attacks became even more ruthless. Not long after, the screams stopped, and a few small figures escaped. These people abandoned their physical bodies and used their primordial spirits to avoid the sword gleam. Do you think you can escape? Seeing their primordial spirits escape, Mo Qingyun's face turned cold and he immediately activated his sacred body. With the activation of Mo Qingyun's saintly body, a terrifying thunderous flame erupted from the ground. The violent thunder and fire power appeared and formed a wall of fire that connected the sky, blocking their way. This technique seems to be the Earth Demon Thunder Rage Dragon's sacred body. Qing Yun's sacred body has advanced and become the Earth Demon Thunder Rage Dragon's sacred body. I didn't expect Mr. Mo to have a sacred body, and it's one of the 72 sacred bodies. After discovering Mo Qingyun's sacred body, Yao Yu and the others were shocked. The way they looked at Mo Qingyun changed drastically. Under everyone's gaze, Mo Qingyun pointed at the divine sword of 9 oxen and directly chased after them on his sword. Mo Qingyun stepped on the divine sword of 9 oxen and his speed instantly reached the extreme. In the blink of an eye, he caught up with their primordial spirit. Space compression. Space imprisonment. Mo Qingyun caught up with them. He released the law of space and trapped them again. Being trapped again, they were immediately shocked, and despair appeared on their faces. They could not block Mo Qingyun's sword in their peak state, let alone in their primordial spirit state. You can block my sword once, but can you block my second sword? As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, He slashed out with his sword and slashed out a sword gleam with an imposing aura. The sword light blasted out from the 9 oxen divine sword and turned into the shadows of oxen, rushing toward the few people. In a short period of time, the few of them were drowned by the shadows of the bulls, and they let out cries of despair. Not long after, when the ox shadow dissipated, their primordial spirits also disappeared. If nothing unexpected happened, under the bombardment of the ox shadow, the few people's primordial spirits were destroyed. After destroying their primordial spirits, Emo Qingyun returned to the island and killed the others. By the time Emo Qingyun returned, the battle had already ended. The other members of the Divine Wood Imperial Court had all been killed. I didn't expect the Divine Wood Imperial Court to send out 5 Universe Realm powerhouses this time. Recalling the situation just now, Sure Wendy felt a burst of lingering fear, and his face was filled with lingering fear. If Emo Qingyun had not appeared in time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. This is only a test. I'm afraid their attacks will be even more ferocious. Hearing Sure Wendy's words, Emo Qingyun frowned as he felt the pressure. Emo Qingyun's words immediately made everyone's hearts heavy. If this situation continued, it would not be good news for them. Compared to Ma Wenguang and the others' heavy hearts, Emo Qingyun was much more indifferent. He had long expected this. How could a clan that could give a 5-star faction a headache be so easy to deal with? Everyone, don't be dejected. At least for now, we are winning. Looking at everyone's heavy expressions, Emo Qingyun smiled faintly at them, encouraging their fighting spirit. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, everyone's mood improved a little, and the gloominess on their faces also faded a little. Emo Qingyun's words were right. At least from Emo Qingyun's point of view, they had always been winning. Time is of the essence. Everyone seize the time to cultivate. After easing the pressure in his heart, Ma Wenguang instructed everyone to continue dividing the work. Seeing that everyone had divided the work, Mo Qingyun flew to an island and immersed himself in cultivation again. The spatial shackles combined with the divine 9-bull sword is much stronger than the other nomological laws. Recalling the battle just now, Emo Qingyun's mind stirred and he made a great discovery. In that case, I will choose the spatial shackles for the next spatial nomological law. With this thought in mind, Emo Qingyun began to comprehend the spatial shackles nomological law. If he could comprehend the spatial shackles nomological law, even dealing with a mid-stage universe realm powerhouse would not be a problem. The following time passed bit by bit. Perhaps the successive defeats had made the Divine Wood Imperial Court restrain themselves a lot and not launch any more attacks. Of course, another situation could not be ruled out. The invasion of the demon race had made them unable to do anything else. In any case, this was a good thing for Emo Qingyun and the others. At least it gave them time to quickly build up their strongholds. However, Emo Qingyun did not relax because of this. Instead, he became even more vigilant. This was because behind the calm there was always a storm. On this day, Emo Qingyun, who had been cultivating all this time, opened his eyes with a happy expression. After so many days of cultivation, he had finally comprehended the spatial shackles. In this case, even if Wang Xiao and the others attack, there won't be too much pressure. Seeing his cultivation progress, a faint smile appeared on Emo Qingyun's face. He was overjoyed. Just as Emo Qingyun was feeling happy, Huang Gang and the others surrounded him and smiled brightly. Qingyun, the stronghold has been built. What are we going to do next? Since everything is ready, it's time to counterattack. Hearing everyone's question, Emo Qingyun smiled faintly and gave the order to everyone. After deciding to counterattack the Divine Wood Imperial Court, Emo Qingyun looked at Sure Wendy and the others and said, "Master, you stay behind to take charge of the camp. The others will follow me to battle." "Okay." Sure Wendy immediately nodded and accepted Emo Qingyun's arrangement. He was good at strategizing and governing the country. It was most suitable for him to stay behind and guard the camp. After instructing Shirwendi, Emo Qingyun said to Ma Wenguang and the others, "All right, let's not delay any longer. Let's set off immediately." Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Ma Wenguang immediately gathered his men and followed Emo Qingyun to battle. Leading everyone to battle, Emo Qingyun sent a signal to the elf tribe, Lord Beixian, and the Heavenly Bull Divine sect to attack. For a time, the various forces attacked together and immediately caught the Divine Wood Imperial Court off guard. In just a few days, the territory of the Divine Wood Imperial Court had shrunk by nearly half. In addition, some forces that were originally on the sidelines also took the opportunity to join the crusade. With such a situation, the pressure on Emo Qingyun and the others was greatly reduced, making the crusade even smoother. At this moment, Emo Qingyun and the others came in front of another city and made a posture of breaking into the city by force. Ordinary cities would not be able to withstand the might of such an army. Looking at the city in front of him, Ma Wenguang smiled faintly and said, "With our speed, we can kill our way into the Divine Wood Imperial City in a month at most." Chapter 2700. The City Lord of Universal Fortune City is only a quasi-universe realm powerhouse. He's not difficult to deal with. Looking at the City Lord in front of him, Ma Wenguang's face was indifferent as he gave a simple explanation to Emo Qingyun. Obviously, in his eyes, it was too easy to break through Universal Fortune City. Since that's the case, let's attack. After learning about the strength of Universal Fortune City, Emo Qingyun didn't say much and directly ordered Ma Wenguang and the others. After receiving Emo Qingyun's order, Ma Wenguang immediately led the soldiers and launched a strong attack on Universal Fortune City. At this time, the City Lord of Universal Fortune City came out with a frightened expression. Quickly stop. We'll open the city and surrender." Hearing the City Lord's words, Ma Wenguang waved at the soldiers to stop the attack. "Thank you, Divine General." Seeing Ma Wenguang's actions, the City Lord's expression relaxed and he hurriedly thanked him. Immediately after, he ordered the soldiers of Huanyun City to open the city gate. "Let's go in." Seeing the gates of Universal Fortune City open, Emo Qingyun said something to everyone and took the lead to walk into the city. After a while, Emo Qingyun and the others entered the city and prepared to incorporate the people of Universal Fortune City. But what surprised Emo Qingyun was that when they entered the city, they found that it was just an empty city. "Not good, we've been fooled. This is a trap." Seeing their situation, Ma Wenguang's expression trembled and he became worried. Compared to Ma Wenguang's worry, Emo Qingyun's face was calm as he glanced around. At this moment, while Emo Qingyun was looking around, a group of figures appeared above them. When Emo Qingyun saw these people, he found a familiar figure. It was Pan Yong, the one who had betrayed them before. "Pan Yong, you're actually here." When Emo Qingyun saw Pan Yong, he revealed a surprised expression. Compared to Emo Qingyun's surprise, Ma Wenguang looked at Pan Yong and his face became as dark as ink. "Pan Yong, you treacherous villain. You actually surrendered to Wang Shi and the others." "Divine General, everyone has their own ambitions. A wise man submits to circumstances." Pan Yong did not care about Ma Wenguang's insults at all and replied with a faint smile. After that, he looked at Emo Qingyun and his face gradually turned cold. He said, "Young Master Emo, I admit that your talent is extraordinary and your battle prowess is unparalleled. However, individual battle prowess is useless in a battle between two armies." In response to Pan Yong's words, Emo Qingyun did not argue with him. Instead, he focused on sensing his surroundings. He wanted to use this time to find a way to break the formation so that he could escape with everyone. Seeing that Emo Qingyun was silent, Pan Yong's expression became even colder. He said, "Emo Qingyun, let me ask you now. Where is Princess Zishu now?" Do you think I'll tell you? Hearing Pan Yong's question, Emo Qingyun frowned and asked coldly. Pan Yong did not care about Emo Qingyun's question. He looked at Emo Qingyun and said coldly, Mr. Emo, as long as you hand over Princess Zishu, I can let you have no worries about your cultivation in the future. This guy's attention has always been on Zishu. Hearing Pan Yong's question, Emo Qingyun's heart skipped a beat. His previous guess was even more confirmed. He thought to himself, but why does this guy want to capture Zishu? What is the secret behind this? At this moment, Emo Qingyun was extremely puzzled. He did not understand why Pan Yong was doing this. After thinking hard for a while, Emo Qingyun simply stopped thinking about it. He looked at Pan Yong and said, Pan Yong, no matter what your purpose is, since you insist on capturing Zishu, you will definitely die today. Emo Qingyun, I think you don't understand the current situation. As soon as Pan Yong's words fell, he activated the array formation and attacked Emo Qingyun and the others. As the formation was activated, wave after wave of terrifying attacks were formed within the formation. Emo Qingyun's face turned cold when he saw this. He bellowed furiously, You want to threaten us with just a few quasi-level 4 formations? Aren't you underestimating us a little too much? Sky-piercing. After Emo Qingyun said that, he slashed out with his sword and blasted out a powerful sword light. When the sword light shot out, it cut a hole in the space and broke the array in the city. The array is broken. It was broken in a brutal way. Seeing Emo Qingyun's performance, Pan Yong immediately panicked and a strong sense of fear rose in him. He did not expect Emo Qingyun to be so powerful that he could break his array so easily. After realizing this, Pan Yong did not dare to stay and immediately fled out of the city. Where do you think you are going? Seeing Pan Yong's action, Emo Qingyun's face turned cold and he immediately shouted at him. Immediately, Emo Qingyun's figure moved and chased after Pan Yong. When Emo Qingyun chased after him, he said to Ma Wenguang and the others, I will leave this place to you. I will chase after Pan Yong. This time, I will not let him escape. Emo Qingyun's figure flashed a few times and he caught up with Pan Yong and blocked his path. Seeing that his path was blocked, Pan Yong's expression immediately trembled and a strong sense of fear rose in him. Emo Qingyun, as long as you let me go, I will not make things difficult for you in the future. How about it? Seeing that his path was blocked, Pan Yong had a pleading look on his face. He put on a look of horror. Seeing Pan Yong's reaction, Emo Qingyun's face turned cold and he shouted, If you had known this would happen, you would not have done it in the first place. Since you want to go against Zishu, then be prepared to be killed. After Emo Qingyun finished speaking, he did not say anything else and immediately slashed at Pan Yong with his sword. As Emo Qingyun slashed out with his sword, a terrifying wave of saint power emanated from the divine sword of 9 bulls. Then, the sword light turned into an afterimage and slashed at Pan Yong domineeringly. In the face of Emo Qingyun's attack, Pan Yong did not directly meet it. Instead, he chose to dodge. Looking at him, it seemed that he was familiar with Emo Qingyun's superpower. Humph! Let's see how many times you can dodge. Seeing Pan Yong's performance, Emo Qingyun snorted coldly and blasted a palm at him. Following that, an astonishing spatial shackling law locked down the space around Pan Yong. Then, Pan Yong's strength was greatly suppressed. Oh no, the space is imprisoned. Seeing this, Pan Yong's expression trembled and a strong sense of fear appeared on his face. The space around him was imprisoned and he could not continue to dodge. He could only take Emo Qingyun's attack head-on. When he thought of Emo Qingyun's superpower that could ignore any defense, how could he block it? When Pan Yong thought of this, the fear on his face grew even stronger. Chapter 2701. While Pan Yong was panicking, the sword radiance shattered the space around him and blasted directly in front of him. Looking at the rapidly approaching sword radiance, Pan Yong hurriedly tried to block it, hoping to block it. Unfortunately, the situation that he had hoped for did not happen as he had imagined. The sword radiance shattered the space and landed on Pan Yong's shoulder, cutting off one of his arms. After his arm was cut off by Emo Qingyun, Pan Yong immediately screamed and turned to run for his life. You can't escape. Seeing Pan Yong continue to run for his life, Emo Qingyun smiled mockingly and immediately chased after him. When Emo Qingyun chased after him, he used the law of space compression and closed the distance between them in the blink of an eye. Space imprisonment. When he arrived in front of Pan Yong, Emo Qingyun used the space imprisonment and imprisoned him again. Seeing Emo Qingyun use the same trick again, Pan Yong was in despair and his face turned pale. Mr. Emo, I have no choice but to do this. Please give me a chance to change. Seeing that he was imprisoned again, Pan Yong gave up resisting and begged Emo Qingyun again. Seeing Pan Yong's reaction, Emo Qingyun frowned and said in a low voice, Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Give me a satisfactory answer. If you really have no choice, I'll give you a chance to change. Thank you, Mr. Emo. Hearing Emo Qingyun's words, Pan Yong showed a pained expression and said, I captured Princess Zishu mainly because Wang Xiao has imprisoned all my family members and asked me to capture Zishu to exchange for them. I see. Knowing the reason for Pan Yong's attack, Emo Qingyun's gaze softened and said, You're too foolish. Do you think that Wang Xiao and the others will release Zishu if you capture her and exchange her for someone else? What if Wang Xiao doesn't release her? Hearing Emo Qingyun's question, Wang Xiao immediately fell silent. With the strength of Wang Xiao and the others, even if they did not let him go, there was nothing he could do. As Pan Yong thought of this, he revealed an expression of self-blame and said, Pan Yong was foolish and committed a heinous act. Now, I will use my death to make up for my mistake. As soon as Pan Yong finished speaking, he channeled his saint energy and blasted it toward his own head. Looking at his actions, it seemed that he really intended to die to prove his sincerity. Wait! Seeing Pan Yong's actions, Emo Qingyun shouted, Death is the most useless way to escape. Instead of dying like this, why not do something meaningful? With Emo Qingyun's words, Pan Yong's eyes became much clearer, and he understood a little more. He said, Mr. Emo, please enlighten me and give me a clear path. It can't be considered a wise path. I just want you to redeem yourself by doing good deeds. In response to Wang Xiao's request, Emo Qingyun responded indifferently. He then said, Next, if you help us with all your strength, we will try our best to help you save your children when we deal with Wang Xiao. Of course, even if we can't help you save them, we can at least help you take revenge. Thank you, Mr. Emo. I know I was wrong. I will do my best to help Princess Zishu. Under Emo Qingyun's persuasion, Pan Yong expressed his determination to Emo Qingyun with great shame. In response to Pan Yong's actions, Emo Qingyun nodded with satisfaction and said, Let go of your primordial spirit. I want to plant a soul brand. If you perform well in the future, I will remove the soul brand. Although Pan Yong was remorseful, he was powerful, so Emo Qingyun did not dare to be careless. Yes. Hearing Emo Qingyun's request, Pan Yong nodded and let go of his primordial spirit. After a short while, Emo Qingyun planted a soul brand on Pan Yong. He then nodded to Pan Yong and said, Okay, I'll go back. Pan Yong nodded and followed closely behind. Soon, the two of them returned to Huanyan City and walked toward Ma Wenguang and the others who had finished reorganizing. Mr. Emo, why did you bring him back? Seeing Pan Yong return with him, Ma Wenguang was puzzled and immediately asked Emo Qingyun. As far as he was concerned, a traitor like Pan Yong should have his entire family annihilated. Divine General, don't be anxious. Please listen to me. Seeing Ma Wenguang's reaction, Emo Qingyun waved his hand with a faint smile and told him about Pan Yong. After hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Ma Wenguang's expression became better, but there was still a strong sense of anger. He said, "Although you had your own difficulties, you still made a move on Princess Zishu. This is still a crime worthy of death. After helping Princess Zishu restore her kingdom, you can redeem yourself. Don't worry, Divine General. After this old man completes his mission, I will pay for it with my life." Pan Yong did not refute Ma Wenguang's words and nodded with a firm expression. Hearing Pan Yong's words, Ma Wenguang did not say anything, but his attitude was still not very good. He could not forgive Pan Yong's previous actions in a short period of time. "Okay, everyone, let's reorganize and continue to attack the next city," Mo Qingyun said to everyone and then walked toward the city lord's mansion in Huanyun City. After a while, Mo Qingyun and the others gathered at the city lord's mansion to discuss the next deployment. Hearing Mo Qingyun and the others' conversation, Pan Yong, who had been silent all this time, suddenly interrupted, "Mr. Mo, we are going to River Patrol City next. It is very powerful, we must not attack rashly." Hearing Pan Yong's words, Mo Qingyun's expression changed slightly and a look of curiosity appeared on his face. He said, "Mr. Pan, please tell us more about it so that we can come up with a plan." "Yes." Under Mo Qingyun's hint, Pan Yong nodded and said, "On the surface, River Patrol City is only slightly stronger than Huanyun City. What you don't know is that there is a huge underwater city under River Patrol City, and there is a middle-stage universe realm expert guarding it." Middle-stage universe realm. Hearing Pan Yong's words, Mo Qingyun frowned and immediately became vigilant. The strength of a middle-stage universe realm expert was not comparable to an early-stage universe realm expert. He was definitely a difficult opponent. More importantly, if he held Mo Qingyun back, Ma Wenguang and the others would be in a bad situation. "It seems that we have to plan slowly and not attack rashly." Knowing the situation in River Patrol City, Mo Qingyun frowned and immediately had a plan. He said, "Pan Yong, Yao Yu, follow me to River Patrol City and investigate the real situation there. Divine Generals, continue to stay in Huanyun City and wait for our news." "Yes." Hearing Mo Qingyun's order, Ma Wenguang immediately obeyed without any delay. Immediately, Mo Qingyun left with Pan Yong and Yao Yu and rushed toward River Patrol City. Apart from spying on the enemy, Mo Qingyun had other plans for this trip to River Patrol City. Chapter 2702. River Patrol City, Four Seas Restaurant. When Mo Qingyun and the other two entered the city, they stopped at this restaurant to gather some information. Sitting in the Four Seas restaurant, Mo Qingyun was surprised to see so many people in River Patrol City. "Strange, these people seem to be the same as us, they are not from River Patrol City." Looking at the people around the tables, Pan Yong was shocked and said, "Those people are from the Dragon Blood Mermaid Badger clan. Their clan is located in the west of the Divine Wood continent, why would they come to River Patrol City?" There are also a few people with short blades. They are the 3 elders of the Xian Lizard clan. I have met them once before. Why are they also here? Upon hearing Pan Yong's words, the shock in Mo Qingyun's heart immediately intensified. If what Pan Yong said was true, the arrival of these people was too strange. These people came from all over the place. Could they be helpers invited by the Divine Wood Imperial Court? Sensing the strength of these people, Mo Qingyun felt a sense of pressure. He was worried that these people did not come with good intentions. Among these people, there were close to 10 Universe Realm experts and close to 100 Quasi-Universe Realm experts. With the strength of River Patrol City and these people, it would be extremely difficult to deal with them. Fortunately, I came to River Patrol City to investigate. Otherwise, it would be really bad. Looking at the situation before him, Mo Qingyun felt a sense of relief. He thought quickly and said, If I can subdue these people, it will be much easier to take back River Patrol City and deal with Wang Xiao and the others. At this moment, while Emo Qingyun was thinking, a few people with giant hammers walked into the restaurant. Big brother, King Xiaorong's cave mansion has been unearthed. It will definitely help us break through to the universe realm. It is said that King Xiaorong has obtained the inheritance of the Li Kuan realm lord and has the secret key to the cave mansion. If we obtain the secret key to the cave mansion of the Li Kuan realm lord, it will be a great gain. As the few of them entered the restaurant, they started chatting and laughing with delight. The secret key to the sector lord's cave? When he heard their words, Emo Qingyun's expression changed. He revealed a look of excitement as he asked, I wonder if the Li Kuan world lord has his universe Tao plate in his cave? At this moment, Emo Qingyun developed a strong interest in King Xiaorong's cave residence. From the looks of it, these people have come for King Xiaorong's cave residence. After knowing the purpose of these people's visit, Emo Qingyun's mood became much more relaxed. He made a plan in his heart, saying, no matter what, I have to enter King Xiaorong's cave and take in some people along the way. Soon after, Emo Qingyun quietly listened to their conversation. Several hours later, all of a sudden, the River Patrol City shook violently, as if there was a tsunami. Sensing the commotion, the people in the restaurant left one after another and dived into the river of River Patrol City. Let's follow. Seeing the actions of the crowd, Emo Qingyun did not delay and followed behind them. After following the crowd for a while, a huge city appeared in front of Emo Qingyun's eyes. What a big move! Looking at the city in front of him, Emo Qingyun could not help but sigh. He saw through the gate of this city and said, using a city to hide the emergence of a cave residence. These people have a good plan, but it's a pity that they have miscalculated. Just as Emo Qingyun was lamenting, the ground shook more and more violently. The destruction of the huge city at the bottom of the river became more and more serious. Bang bang bang. Not long after, the buildings built on top of the cave residence exploded one after another. As these buildings exploded, a majestic underwater dragon palace appeared before everyone's eyes. This was King Xiaorong's cave residence. Seeing King Xiaorong's cave residence appear, the surrounding people immediately rushed into the cave residence. However, those people who rushed in were quickly separated. Looking at their situation, they seemed to have been sent into different spaces and lost their direction. Subsequently, the distance between them and King Xiaorong's cave residence became greater and greater. Spatial overlapping nomological laws. Emo Qingyun was startled when he saw these people's behavior. He understood their situation and said, unexpectedly, King Xiaorong's use of spatial nomological laws has actually reached such a level that he can use spatial nomological laws to protect his cave residence. Emo Qingyun believed that he had no problems using spatial nomological laws to fight. However, he was unable to use spatial nomological laws in place of array formations like King Xiaorong to protect his cave residence. While Emo Qingyun was shocked, some people's life chi was rapidly depleting. Pan Yong shuddered when he saw these people's behavior. Shock surfaced on his face as he said, Time nomological laws, time galaxy. Causing people to die of old age in a few short breaths. What a terrifying time nomological laws. Emo Qingyun's expression shuddered when he saw the fate of those people. He could not help but sigh ruefully. Is this the strength of an eternity realm powerhouse? In the face of such strength, universe realm powerhouses simply do not have the ability to resist. When Emo Qingyun thought of this, he immediately felt a sense of reverence for eternity realm powerhouses. He had to be more careful when he encountered eternity realm powerhouses in the future. While Emo Qingyun was in a daze, a few more people touched the nomological laws and were killed by the power of the nomological laws. As large groups of people were killed, some taboos at the entrance of the cave residence were slowly discovered. Slowly, the number of people who touched the nomological laws decreased rapidly. All right, let's follow them and enter the cave residence as well. After figuring out the path to enter the cave residence, Mo Qingyun did not want to continue watching and started flying towards the cave residence. After hearing Mo Qingyun's instructions, Pan Yong and Pan Yong hurriedly followed and flew into the cave residence together. With Mo Qingyun leading the way, the three of them easily passed through the nomological laws and entered the cave residence. After entering the cave residence, Mo Qingyun saw little beasts flickering continuously inside the cave residence. These little beasts seemed to be. Mo Qingyun frowned when he saw the little beasts in front of him. He felt that they were somewhat familiar. After observing and pondering for a while, Mo Qingyun figured out the little beasts' origins and said excitedly, "These little beasts are formed from nomological origins. Capturing and killing these little beasts will help us comprehend the power of nomological laws." After reminding Pan Yong and Pan Yong, Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated and immediately went to capture and kill the little beast. Pan Yong and Pan Yong were shocked when they heard Mo Qingyun's reminder and hurriedly went to capture the little beast. Under the joint attack of Mo Qingyun's group of three, the group of small beasts were quickly captured and killed, and they were put away into their storage rings. Not long after Mo Qingyun and the others discovered the secret, some more astute people also discovered the secret of the little beasts. Chapter 2703. Not long after a round of fighting, all the law beasts were killed. Because Mo Qingyun's group of three had discovered them early, their harvest was far richer than the others. Let's go. Seeing the law beasts killed, Mo Qingyun was not willing to stay any longer and immediately flew into the depths of the cave. It wasn't long before Mo Qingyun and the others passed through a large hall and arrived at another large hall. In this hall there were still many small beasts flashing about, exuding even stronger law fluctuations. Law beasts. Seeing the small beasts in the hall, Mo Qingyun was delighted and prepared to hunt and capture them. But just as Mo Qingyun was about to take action, a strong sense of unease suddenly arose in his heart. With this feeling, he stopped and hurriedly shouted to Yao Yu and Pan Yong, "You two, stop! Don't hunt those small beasts for now." Hearing Mo Qingyun's words, Pan Yong and Pan Yong were puzzled and stopped hunting the law beasts. At this moment, screams could be heard, attracting everyone's attention. They saw that the group of people hunting the law beasts had all been killed by the law beasts. These are law of time beasts, and they all have terrifying offensive capabilities. Seeing the situation before him, Mo Qingyun felt a sense of lingering fear and was glad that he did not take action. He thought to himself, the law of space beasts just now were used as bait to arouse the greed in everyone's hearts, causing them to let down their guard and then catch them off guard. What a good move to lure the enemy in. It seems that this cave is not safe. With this thought in mind, Mo Qingyun raised his guard and did not dare to be careless in the slightest. Let's go around those small beasts and go deeper. After reminding Yao Yu and Pan Yong, Mo Qingyun continued to go deeper. Knowing the power of the law of time beasts, no one dared to provoke them and avoided them as they went deeper into the cave. After a while, with everyone's hearts tense, they passed through the hall in front of them. Coming out of the hall, everyone arrived in front of a maze. This maze was very large, and with Mo Qingyun's perception, he could only perceive the tip of the iceberg. There's a map here. Could it be the outline of the maze? Looking at the map of the maze's entrance, Mo Qingyun was puzzled and silently committed the map to memory. While Mo Qingyun was committing the map to memory, the others were also observing it and analyzing it. From the outline of the map, it's divided into two areas, the inner and the outer. It's marked in red should belong to the dangerous areas, and the yellow areas should be safe areas. What do the chests in the map mean? Could it be the location of the treasure? Everyone began to talk. As they discussed, their expressions were filled with greed. Emo Chinyan frowned as he listened to the conversations of the people around him. He felt that something was wrong. This maze is definitely not that simple. This map might be a misdirection. As Emo Chinyan thought about it, he told Pan Yong and Luo Yunyang, "Wait a moment. We will enter the red zone directly. Don't look for the boxes in the yellow zone." Hearing Emo Qingyun's instructions, Yao Yu and Pan Yu quickly nodded. Emo Qingyun didn't hesitate to head into the labyrinth after instructing Yu Yao and Yu Yang. As Emo Qingyun entered the maze, a mysterious power of the law of space acted on him. Then, he and Yao Yu separated and entered different spaces. Spatial overlap. Seeing his situation, Emo Qingyun's expression changed, and he understood something. If nothing went wrong, every time he entered the maze, he would be separated by the law of spatial overlap. Let's enter the red area first. Emo Qingyun pondered for a moment, then he went deeper into the maze. As Emo Qingyun went deeper into the maze, he found that a sandstorm had appeared and was beginning to affect his perception. This situation made his heart heavy, and he felt more and more that the maze was dangerous. What made Emo Qingyun's head hurt even more was that as time passed, the sandstorm was getting stronger and stronger. It seems that as time passes, the sandstorm will get bigger and bigger. I have to hurry. Sensing his situation, Emo Qingyun's expression changed, and he sped up. Soon, to Emo Qingyun's surprise, a treasure chest appeared in front of him. It seems that my luck is not bad. I actually found a treasure chest. Looking at the treasure chest in front of him, Emo Qingyun's lips curled up, and he was secretly delighted. Then, after checking the treasure chest, he carefully opened it. As the treasure chest was opened, an azure pearl entered his line of sight. What a shocking power of the law of space! This is a cosmic treasure. Looking at the bead in front of him, Emo Qingyun was delighted and immediately put the bead away. After putting the bead away, Emo Qingyun did not stop and continued to go deeper into the maze. However, what shocked Emo Qingyun was that the speed of the sandstorm seemed to have increased a lot. Oh no, the sandstorm's speed of strengthening has increased. This is not a good thing for me. Sensing that the sandstorm's speed of strengthening had increased, Emo Qingyun's mood became tense, and he increased his speed. Then, he used the law of space to hasten his journey, trying to reach the interior of the maze as soon as possible. However, what shocked him was that his law of space could not be used here. This is bad. Seeing that he could not use the law of space, Emo Qingyun's heart sank, and the feeling of uneasiness immediately intensified. At this moment, not far in front of him, another treasure chest appeared. Another treasure chest! Seeing the treasure chest not far away, Emo Qingyun's expression changed, and he was tempted. He thought to himself, if I take a detour like this, it shouldn't take much time to collect the treasures in the treasure chest. However, just as Emo Qingyun was about to lift his foot, he stopped and asked in confusion, the sandstorm's strengthening speed suddenly increased just now. It seems to be after the treasure chest was opened. Could there be a connection between the two? Emo Qingyun thought to himself. He gave up on opening the treasure chest and walked directly into the interior of the maze. Not long after, another treasure chest appeared not far away, and he also had to take a detour. After this discovery, Emo Qingyun was even more certain that these treasure chests were a trap. Next, Emo Qingyun walked straight, ignoring the treasure chests. About an hour later, with Emo Qingyun's speed, he finally entered the red area. As he entered the red area, the sandstorm disappeared, and his vision became clear. Not only that, but what surprised Emo Qingyun was that he had seen everything that had happened in the yellow zone. He saw that the more passageways the treasure chest opened, the more intense the sandstorm became. The sandstorm blocked all the exits of the passageways in the worst condition, making it impossible to find the exit. Chapter 2704. I wonder how Yao Yu and Pan Yong are? Taking a look at the other situation, Mo Qingyun revealed a curious look and searched for Yao Yu and Pan Yong, two people. Under Mo Qingyun's search, what made him feel disappointed was that he did not find Pan Yong and Yao Yu. Could it be that the people that I can discover are not all of them? Thinking like this, Mo Qingyun felt relieved in his heart and started to enter the interior of the red region. The space in the red region was much larger than the yellow region. Moving around was also much more convenient. However, Mo Qingyun did not feel that the red region would be without danger. From the previous situation, Mo Qingyun already discovered that this immortal's cave was definitely not a safe place. Roar! It wasn't long before Mo Qingyun encountered an enormous ferocious beast on his way. This fierce beast's strength was not weak, reaching the level of quasi-universe realm and comprehending a trace of spatial law. To the average person, this fierce beast was already a terrifying existence. But to Mo Qingyun, its strength was not considered much. He took care of it very easily. Facing the fierce beast's attack, Mo Qingyun took out the Nine-Bull Divine Sword and casually slashed out a sword at it. Mo Qingyun's sword slashed out, blasting out an imposing sword light, directly striking the fierce beast. Bang! Under the bombardment of the sword light, the fierce beast's body immediately exploded, turning into a cloud of blood mist and dissipating. After the fierce beast was killed, Mo Qingyun's footsteps did not stop, continuing to advance into the depths of the red region. Along the way, Mo Qingyun encountered fierce beasts one after another. They were all killed by him domineeringly. Could it be that the content of this round's assessment is to kill fierce beasts and advance? Killing more than 10 fierce beasts in a row, Mo Qingyun developed a sense of doubt, not understanding what this round's assessment was about. Just like that, Mo Qingyun continued to kill ferocious beasts and continued to advance. Several hours passed. After several hours of traveling, Mo Qingyun arrived at the center of the red zone and saw a blood-red flying boat. Judging from the appearance of that blood-red flying boat, it seems that it can only accommodate one person. Looking at the blood-red flying boat before him, Mo Qingyun nodded in understanding. He confirmed his guess and said, "It seems that the content of this test is to hunt and kill beasts." At this moment, when Mo Qingyun was about to leave on the flying boat, a figure appeared in his sight. "Brat, stop!" When that person saw Mo Qingyun, he immediately roared and flew towards Mo Qingyun. Hearing that person's shout, Mo Qingyun's brows furrowed. A look of surprise surfaced on his face as he said, "I didn't expect to meet someone else in this stage. This is rather interesting." It had to be said that the current situation was beyond Mo Qingyun's expectations. Who would have thought that such an unforeseen event would occur at the final juncture? However, Mo Qingyun didn't care and didn't panic because of this. The person before him wasn't particularly strong. He was only at the quasi-universe grade. Given Mo Qingyun's current strength, dealing with this person would be too easy. A mid-stage celestial domain brat. My luck is really good. Upon sensing Mo Qingyun's cultivation base, the person sneered and felt smug. In his opinion, it would be too easy to deal with Mo Qingyun given his cultivation base. "Brat, if you know what's good for you and give me the flying boat, I can spare your life." Looking at Mo Qingyun on the flying boat, that person's eyes flashed with a ferocious light as he approached Mo Qingyun bit by bit. It seemed like he wanted to first stabilize Mo Qingyun before killing Mo Qingyun with a single blow. Sure enough, when he approached Mo Qingyun, he thrust his spear at Mo Qingyun. Spatial penetration. That person's spear pierced through space and a spear shadow shot towards Mo Qingyun. When that person thrust his sword out, he sneered proudly and said, "Brat, you're too naive. If I let you go, how could I leave this place? It seems like there's only one person who can leave this place." Hearing that person's words, Mo Qingyun's heart skipped a beat as he understood. As Mo Qingyun thought of this, His expression turned cold and he said, "If that's the case, then I won't let you off. You can die in peace." As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he slashed out with his sword and blasted the approaching spear shadow. Under Mo Qingyun's sword, the spear shadow was instantly destroyed. Seeing Mo Qingyun's performance, that person's expression clearly trembled as he panicked and said, "This brat is so strong. My full-strength spear attack was easily neutralized by him." After seeing Mo Qingyun's strength, that person immediately raised his guard and did not dare to attack rashly. "Little brother, let's talk nicely. I was just joking." That person's face was filled with vigilance as he slowly retreated, slowly increasing the distance between him and Mo Qingyun. After a while, when he thought that he had reached a safe zone, he said, "Brat, even if I hide and let you find me, you won't be able to leave this place. I'll find a place to break through. Once I break through to the universe realm, I'll kill you and leave this place." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and fled, not daring to face Mo Qingyun for even a second. Seeing that person's actions, Mo Qingyun smiled mockingly and said, "Do you think you can escape from me?" As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, his figure flashed and chased after that person. Spatial compression. Mo Qingyun's figure flashed and appeared in front of that person, blocking his path. When he saw that his path was blocked, that person's expression froze and he felt a strong sense of fear. Spatial compression law. You are only at the mid-stage, celestial domain realm. How could you possibly comprehend spatial laws? This discovery gave him quite a fright. Mo Qingyun did not care about this person's space at all. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile as he said, "You will understand when you reach the bottom." As soon as Mo Qingyun finished speaking, he blasted out a palm strike and released another wave of spatial laws. Then, the space around that person was confined by a mysterious power. Spatial imprisonment law. 2 types of spatial laws. That person's eyes widened when he saw Mo Qingyun's performance and his face turned as pale as a sheet. At this moment, the strength that Mo Qingyun had displayed had completely frightened him. Given his strength, there was no doubt that he would die if he faced someone who could control 2 types of spatial laws. Then, as he watched in horror, a sword light slashed towards him. No. In the face of the sword light's attack, that person could not even resist and was hit directly by it. Then, that person was blown apart by the sword light and his figure dissipated in the air. As this person was killed, a mysterious power dissipated, and the surrounding scenery blurred. Chapter 2705. It turned out that the way to leave the maze wasn't to take the blood-red airship, but to kill the other person in the maze. Mo Qingyun couldn't help but sigh when he came to this conclusion. This test was too cruel. As a result, the number of people who could leave the red zone would be reduced by half. "I wonder how Yao Yu and Pan Yong are doing?" Mo Qingyun frowned when he thought about the dangers of the red zone. He couldn't help but worry about the 2 of them. Although they weren't weak, there were many universe realm powerhouses among the people who had entered the cave at the bottom of the river. I can still sense Pan Yong's soul. He shouldn't be in any danger. Mo Qingyun's worry lessened as he thought about it. He started to wander around. After entering this place, the connection between me and Pan Yong has become much stronger. It seems like he's also here. With this discovery, Mo Qingyun quickened his pace and searched for Yao Yu and Pan Yong's whereabouts. As Mo Qingyun searched around, he discovered that he was on a huge island. There were many ancient mansions built on the island, which gave off a feeling of vicissitudes of life. Outside these mansions, there was a blue water light shield that emitted spatial energy fluctuations. It seems like I have to break the blue light shield if I want to enter these mansions. Looking at the scene before him, Mo Qingyun began to think about how to get rid of them. As Mo Qingyun observed, He suddenly made a discovery and said in surprise, "Hey, the aura of these blue light shields seems very familiar." When this discovery occurred, Mo Qingyun tried to recall the source of this familiar feeling. So it's this. Mo Qingyun pondered for a moment. Then, his eyes lit up and he took out a blue bead. This blue bead was the one he had obtained from the treasure chest when he entered the maze. He didn't expect it to be related to these mansions. Could this blue bead be the key to entering these mansions? Mo Qingyun no longer hesitated when this idea popped up in his mind. He immediately tested it out. As the blue bead was activated, a mysterious power of the law of space emanated from it. Then, Mo Qingyun sent this energy into the blue light barrier. Soon, Mo Qingyun saw the blue light barrier start to crack bit by bit. It's just as I guessed. Seeing the blue light shield crack, Mo Qingyun's face lit up with joy. He lifted his feet and walked into the mansion. At this moment, as Mo Qingyun entered the mansion, several people walked towards him. That brat broke through the blue light barrier. It seems like he discovered the secret of the mansion. It's the bead in his hand. That's the key to entering and opening it. A celestial domain grade brat isn't qualified to possess such a treasure. When they saw the bead in Mo Qingyun's hand, greed appeared on their faces. Then, he flew towards Mo Qingyun and quickly surrounded Mo Qingyun. 1 universe grade and 3 quasi-universe grade. Mo Qingyun smiled faintly when he sensed their cultivation bases. He had a plan in mind. These people weren't weak. If he could subdue them, they would be a great help. A quasi-universe grade middle-aged man glanced at Mo Qingyun disdainfully before ordering Mo Qingyun, "Brat, hand over your bead and I'll give you a quick death. Does this mean that I'll have to die no matter what I do?" Hearing this person's words, the corners of Mo Qingyun's eyes narrowed slightly, and a cold aura emanated from his body. This man's way of doing things was really ruthless. He didn't even give Luo Yunyang a chance to live. That's right. The man smiled sinisterly at Mo Qingyun's question. "Stop dilly-dallying. If I change my mind later, it will be too late for regret." "Very well." Mo Qingyun nodded with a smile when he saw this man's reaction. "Originally, I was thinking of subduing the few of you. However, you won't have the chance to do so." "Subdue us?" The man laughed heartily when he heard Mo Qingyun's words. "Brat, I'm afraid you don't know who this man beside us is." As soon as the middle-aged man said that, the others beside him chimed in. "Brat, Sir Jiang is the young lord of the 3-star Qi emblem sect. Are you trying to subdue us now? It would be a great honor for you to die at the hands of Sir Jiang." The few of them were all talking at once, and they all revealed flattering expressions towards Jiang. Jiang's lips twitched when he heard their flattery. He glanced at Mo Qingyun and said disdainfully, "A brat with a celestial domain grade cultivation base isn't worthy of me taking action. You guys deal with him. I'll enter the residence to investigate." Yes. When they heard Jiang's instructions, the few quasi-universe grade martialists immediately surrounded Mo Qingyun. The corners of Mo Qingyun's eyes narrowed slightly as he watched Jiang walk towards the mansion. He was surprised. A member of a 3-star force has actually come to the Divine Wood continent. Looks like this Jiang has some secret. Mo Qingyun's interest in Jiang was piqued by this thought. As Mo Qingyun pondered this, the few quasi-universe grade martialists launched an attack on him. Based on their postures, it seemed like they wanted to kill Mo Qingyun with a single blow and not give Mo Qingyun a chance to beg for mercy. Mo Qingyun's expression turned cold when he saw their actions. "A few ignorant ants. Since you are in such a hurry to die, I will fulfill your wish." Mo Qingyun took out the 9-bull divine sword and slashed at the few martialists. A sword light streaked across the sky and swept past with a sweeping momentum, instantly scattering the martialists' attacks. This kid is really strong. The few quasi-universe grade martialists couldn't help but twitch when they saw the strength Mo Qingyun displayed. The might of Mo Qingyun's sword had made their hearts tremble. These people weren't the only ones who were trembling. Even Chen Jiang, who was walking towards the mansion, couldn't help but be shocked when he saw the might of Mo Qingyun's sword. Chen Jiang was startled. That kid's strength has actually reached such a level. No wonder he could come here. He really does have some ability. When Chen Jiang realized this, he stopped in his tracks and looked at Mo Qingyun with interest. However, he wasn't in a hurry to make a move, as he felt that a few of his subordinates were enough to deal with him. Mo Qingyun's attack didn't slow down after defeating the martialist's attack. He sent another palm strike at the martialist. As Mo Qingyun waved his palm, two mysterious spatial laws descended on the martialist's bodies. Spatial compression. Thanks to the spatial compression laws, the martialist's positions were immediately pulled closer. Before they could feel shocked, they discovered that the space around them had been confined by some sort of power. Seeing such a situation, everyone's expression immediately trembled, and their eyes widened. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.